Welcome back to the Oddcast for episode 53. And Topher and I aren't normally the type of people to buy into the doom and gloom and the black pill, but unfortunately, with the laws that passed yesterday in the federal parliament, it is not worth celebrating. And I'm going to suggest you guys grab your drinks because we're going to have to commiserate together.
Are you going to say thank you? Because, I mean, you're welcome. I just want to say you're welcome.
What did I do?
No, it's what you need to say thank you to me for what I did.
For making my life miserable, or?
There are people who would love to receive even just one handwritten, hand-signed postcard. I didn't bring you one. I brought you 250 of the damn
I thought
things.
they were bricks of Coke. I was like, at least give me something valuable.
I have individually signed every single one of these. You're welcome.
And you put them back in their little...
I did, yeah. I slid them back into their little...
Like, if you weren't paying attention, no. I mean, it could look like bricks.
Well, it could look like wads of cash. Someone's going to snip this. And you're welcome, because actually I didn't...
I wish they were wads of cash.
I didn't give you 250. I actually did 500 for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, these are the cards. For those that are watching and those that are listening don't know what's going on, these are the cards that Carly designed. They're beautiful. And one of them goes out with every single order.
Yes.
And Carly does this beautiful job packaging everything up. There's tissue paper and there's stickers and there's one of these cards. And this will keep you going for the next 750 orders because there you go.
And behind door number 3.
I tell you what, I have got a cramp in both hands at the moment. It's.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
that's so inappropriate.
But honestly, just sitting there signing my name 1,000 damn times, Carly. What are you doing? What are you doing to me?
Do you regret bringing me on yet?
I to be fair, no more than I expected to. I knew in advance that I was going to suffer. Yeah. That was obvious.
Well, at least we're suffering together because let me tell you, you are no picnic.
I think the entire country is suffering today.
No, they're not. They're not. And I don't want to be like the antagonist of this episode, but most of the country think this is great. I don't think people have any idea what's in store for us. And I'm in two frames of mind. Personally, I'm terrified. But also on another level, I'm like, you deserve this. This is what you voted for. This is what the Iranians thought they were getting in 1979 with a change of government. You want it? Here it is. Enjoy.
I picked the wrong day to stop doing cocaine. No, sadly, I can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
And I saw the same thing in Venezuela. There were people who just...
Drink.
Still thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
and they're sitting there in poverty. I've told the story of the guy with the T-shirt saying, thank you, government, for giving me a T-shirt because without you, I couldn't afford to buy one, with no awareness that the government was the reason why he couldn't afford to buy one. And the threshold we crossed yesterday is... We crossed 3 thresholds yesterday.
Well, are we going to go straight into it or are we going to let's just fucking chill? We don't want people to turn off.
How can we do the word of the day and on a day like today? People don't understand
because we still need routine.
The scale of the implications.
Yes. And we will get to that.
Night.
We will get to that. But let's at least give people...
All right. This is your podcast. Take it away. Where would you like to go?
Have you got any good news?
We're not dead. Still breathing.
I'll accept that.
No, good news. We do need to talk about this. Great news is that we have scheduled the first birthday party.
We have scheduled the first birthday party.
That is great news. And it's a little bit belated. That's okay. It is happening now. The location is locked in. It's inner Bayside suburbs of Melbourne. We're not giving away the exact location. It is booked. Don't worry about that. But we'll hold that until closer to the date for obvious reasons, unfortunately, because of the way the world is at the moment. But it's going to be fantastic. Tickets are limited to 200 people only. And that's the capacity. We can't increase that. That is the venue capacity. Beg your pardon. $49 gets you entry and food. So there's going to be light canapes and what have you. And drinks at bar prices. You get your own drinks over the bar. There is a bar in the room. So if you're playing the drinking game and you're finding you're going through them very quickly, you can refill without having to miss anything. You don't have to leave the room. So we picked the venue very carefully on that basis.
And we're being very responsible, making sure that there's food available. You get light meals. So you get a little risotto and a bowl.
It's like a little bowl with some stuff. It's not lunch. Okay, I don't want people to go in there thinking they're getting lunch. You're not getting lunch, but you're getting, it's a decent feed.
It's not a cavalry. It's a...
Yeah, it's not a carvery or it's not Smorgies. No. All right, if you go in there expecting Smorgies.
Smorgies, you mean Sizzler?
No, Sizzler was rubbish.
Sizzler was the OG.
Smorgies all the way. Smorgies did it better. They had a volcano.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, the one in Bundoora had a volcano.
Smorgies' ads were horrific. That's all I remember.
I wonder, I'm going to have to drive past that building. Is that building still there with the volcano in it? Is there some other brand? Is it now like, the Quickie Mart, 7-Eleven?
I don't know.
With the volcano sticking out of the
I don't
middle?
know that side of town.
They built that specially to be a Smorgies with this big ass volcano and had red lights and everything. As a kid,
that's back when we used to care about stuff.
Okay.
It's like when McDonald's and all that had epic playgrounds, and they had like the Hamburglar as like the seat in the restaurant.
Yeah. So I grew up not poor, but definitely at the very bottom end of the middle class. And we didn't, for example, do McDonald's birthday parties because that was too expensive. When someone invited us to a McDonald's birthday party, we had to beg mum and dad to spend the money on our ticket to go to the party. The $13 or whatever it was going to be.
Wait. You had to pay to go to someone's party?
Yes, I grew up poor with poor friends. No one was paying for their own. No one was paying for everyone else to attend their parties. Yeah, no. See, you don't understand your privilege. I have a go at you. Yeah, I have a go at you sometimes, and most of the time it misses you. Like, you actually don't understand the ingrained assumptions that you have about the world that are based on the fact that your family had money.
Do you want to lecture me anymore on your politics?
No. But the proper fuck off rich kids, they had all-you-can-eat Smorgies birthday parties, and they paid for you. That happened to me once in my life, and it was like the richest people we knew. And we went to Smorgies, and the family paid for everybody. There was about 12 kids or something there, and I think probably 10 or 11 of us puked on the way home. It was the most excellent time.
I should probably not tell you about my Pizza Hut party then, should I?
Have you ever been kicked out of a Pizza Hut for eating too much for their all-you-can-eat lunch?
No.
I have. Oh, yeah.
Really?
I went, oh, yeah. Up in Queensland.
They were just like, enough.
Yeah, they were like, dude, you're done. You're out. Now, to be fair, I'd been there for about 2 hours at that point, and I hadn't slowed down. But, yeah, they kicked me out.
I don't get my money's worth out of buffets. I love the idea of having anymore. A smorgasbord and like all the different
Pick
things.
And choose.
But I can never, like, we used to, so in my old company, I used to celebrate with taking everyone to the Langham Hotel for dinner. And look at
that flex. Yeah.
Well, they have the 7 continents, right? Mm-hmm. So, well, apart from Antarctica, I don't know if Antarctica have their own food, but basically penguin, some whale blubber, some polar bears.
With a little Greenpeace activist standing next to it.
But, you can go up there and they'll cook you your noodles or your curry in front of you and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think back then, I think it was about $120, might be more now. And I was like, I'm actually not getting $120 worth. I don't eat enough.
No, that's right. So I've managed to stay at a few fancy hotels recently, and having, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, having grown up poor, have I mentioned to you?
No,
I didn't grow up with as much money.
Tell me more. I've got to get that bloody violin.
No, but like you remember we went to Arc, okay, and we're staying at the hotel there.
How's this for double standards? He's staying at the Intercontinental. And I'm at like some schleppy bloody apartment.
We did sort of shovel you guys off to the side.
To be fair, I won because the apartment was way better.
The apartment was pretty mint. So I stayed at the hotel where all the guests were staying.
Was it the Intercontinental?
I can't remember. But it was a networking thing. So I wanted to be bumping into people like, John Howard.
John Howard at Brekkie. We had pancakes with John Howard.
Correct. And that was the whole idea of us being there. But we had the breakfasts, and of course, in these very hoity-toity sort of establishments, it's not like your tubs full of cereal and some milk and maybe a little plastic tub of fruit. This is like there's your salmon and there's an entire section dedicated to cheeses, and so I'm having a great time. I'm having all kinds of crazy stuff, and then I ended up having to just pretend that this person didn't exist because it was so awkward, because he was so depressed. Like, his life had not worked out the way he planned at all. There's the poor dude that has to stand in the little portal and make you an omelette on request. Nobody went to chef school to be that guy. Nobody had visions. I'm going to become a chef. I'm going to make omelettes at the hotel. Like, nobody. and it's so awkward because he can't start until you've told him what you want in your omelette. So you have to tell him, and then you stand there while he does performance art right in front of you, like just making this
Maybe
damn
he
omelette.
enjoys that.
Not the one I was looking at.
Oh.
No. He was not living his best life.
I was going to say something. I was like, should I admit to this on the podcast? But I think everyone's guilty of this. So because we were at... So if anyone knows London at all, we were at the O2
The O2,
Arena, so that down the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're not near anything.
Yeah.
There was no real
Yeah,
supermarket.
it was a tube ride to get to anything.
Yeah, and there was actually no access to food. We had, apart from, Nando's.
Limited. If you went
fast
on like
food.
an 8-minute, 10-minute walk, there were a couple of options, but there was very little.
Yeah, so we would go across to Topher's hotel for breakfast, and I think it was like $50 a head or something.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and I was like, again, I eat 2 pieces of toast and a coffee. That's not $50. So thankfully, Eddie, your wife, had a pram, and that pram has places to hide things.
Stuffed with like,
I'm like,
French croissants and like
jam,
just
Nutella,
like
coffee for later.
You were equipped for the entire day by the time you walked out of that place.
I was like, Eddie, bring the pram over here. And I was like,
You know the staff are watching, right? Like they know.
Of course they know. They're like, hang on a minute. There was 7 jams. Why are there now none? Oh, that girl just walked away.
Yeah. Yeah, she's going to be selling them on Etsy for a year.
Well, it was just sort of like there was nowhere else to get food, and paying $50 a head for breakfast. I wanted my money's
crazy
worth.
stuff.
Anyway, my good news.
Yes.
I'm flying to Japan tomorrow.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I should tell you all about Japan because I've just come back from Japan. Let me tell you all about Japan, stuff that you wouldn't possibly know. Because what would you know about Japan?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. I have been, I think I said to you, I was watching all of these Instagram reels because as you do, you watch one and then 50,000 others pop up.
The algorithm does its thing.
And I had our itinerary planned. And for any, you guys would have saw it last week, I have a spreadsheet. And I was like, oh, what can I go and look at? The more I've looked at Japan on Instagram, the more I'm like, actually don't want to go there. Too busy, too many tourists. Absolutely fuck no. Nah. So it's actually been a really good thing because what it's done is made me go, well, what else is there? So I've actually shifted our itinerary now to avoid a lot of these tourist traps because last time I was in Japan was 2017. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
But things have obviously changed. A lot more people are traveling there, a lot more tourists.
Yeah.
And for example, places in Kyoto, like the Golden Temple, the Golden Pavilion, and the Monkey Forest and all that, all of the footage I've been seeing on Instagram, it's packed.
Oh, yeah.
It was not like that 10 years ago.
And I cannot tolerate that level of, the bamboo forest. But get there early because otherwise there's massive crowds of people. I'm like, no, how about I just don't?
Yeah.
How about I just don't go?
To be honest, the bamboo forest is barely a forest. It's a
it's a stand. It's a,
I've obviously been there before and I was like, this is so underwhelming.
But it's just good marketing. And Instagram is so good at this. If you take the right angle in the right lighting conditions, blah, blah, blah. But it also condemns us, I think, to disappointment because an Instagrammer will spend a day working on one shot to get that perfect. Oh, what's the time of day? When do I go? All that sort of thing. This isn't sort of travel vlogging. That's a different thing. These people are putting it in the best possible light under the best possible conditions. They'll go to a country.
Editing it in Photoshop.
Well, that's right. And they'll go to a country at the right time of year when it looks at its best. And so, I'm sorry, no matter what you do, it's going to look underwhelming in comparison. If you just want the eye candy, stick with Instagram. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and like a lot of these food places, people are like, this is a must-have thing and you got to go here. And I'm like, there are so many thousands of restaurants in that small area and everyone wants to line up in a line for 2 hours to get a piece of fried bread with cream in it. I'm like, guys, come on.
Okay. I will defend. So we watched. There's an Aussie girl over there. I can't remember her name, but she does vlogs, particularly about Osaka, Kyoto, that kind of region.
She's very very meek.
It's not like Grace in Japan. It's something like
I've been watching her videos too,
and she does great videos, wonderfully entertaining. And she's done a few on the Dotonbori, which is a really kind of fashionable area within
it's where the canals
Osaka,
are.
where the canals are. And so that was on our list, our must-do list.
Yeah.
And then we got there and we went, okay, no, she really has done a fantastic job of just bringing out the best of this place. So much of what looked incredible is stuff that with the naked eye I would have walked past and not even noticed if it weren't for the fact that she pointed a camera at it.
In Japan.
Sunny, that's the one. Vibrant color and everything. And I'm not having a go at it. Like that's what she does. It's her. That's how she earns her living, and she does it very, very well. And it was very useful information. But we lined up to get these little octopus balls. not okonomiyaki, that's a different thing. Little balls of there's octopus in them and sort of made with flour. Apparently, this particular dish arose when the US were sending food to Japan after Japan surrendered at the end of the Second World War.
Ah, okay.
And the Japanese people didn't know what to do with flour. They're like, what are we, like, America's like, we're sending food, send them flour.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't know what this is.
We don't use this.
We don't know what to do. And this particular food arose out of that. And on camera, it looks like it's crispy, deep fried, breaded kind of texture on the outside. Turns out the whole thing's soggy. And it's really, we lined up for a long time and that was a terrible fail. However, Sunny in Japan, thank you very much for putting us onto the cheese-filled medallion biscuit things.
Yeah.
Because we got one of those about 3 shops down in the Dotonbori, which she had also talked about. That was well
Everyone
worth
thinks Japan is like super healthy. Japanese
it.
food is junk.
No, it's horrific. But I tell you what, that little biscuit was
Amazing.
absolutely worth it. Yeah.
I've so it's actually my 40th birthday on Friday. So that's also
Happy
good
birthday
news.
to you for a few days' time. Happy birthday to you. Do I have to sing the whole song?
Yes.
No.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to her. Happy birthday, dear Carly.
Happy birthday to me.
you.
Yay.
Hopefully that's the last time I have to sing that song to you.
That's the second time he's had to do it. So I planned it that I wake up on my birthday in Osaka. Like that's where we're flying
Not
into.
bad. Yeah, not bad.
And I've got a couple of things planned, but I'm taking G to Kobe, which is where I grew up.
Yes.
And
where a building fell on your head.
where I broke a bath with my face.
Hey, you don't want to know about my hand cramps. I don't want to know what you get up to either. All right?
Those in-jokes, people will be like, what are they talking about? Anyway.
Okay, Carly was in an earthquake in Kobe and a building fell on her head and she took shelter in the bath and it broke the bath. That's what we're talking about.
No, I was in the bath when the earthquake hit and I went through the bath.
Well, I mean, that's still shelter. You took shelter in the bath.
And I broke the bath with my face. Me versus the bath, who came off better? Neither.
Yeah, you're both very broken.
So I'm taking him there, and obviously Kobe is the home of Kobe beef.
Yeah.
And it is the highest grade Wagyu you can get. And it is actually one of those things that's truly worth it. It is insanely expensive, but it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I've researched the best restaurant because wherever you go, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I was like, if we're going to go, let's do it properly.
Yep.
And, the steaks, depending which one we decide to get, were anywhere between $300 to $500. Depends what she's up to.
The steaks could not be higher.
Correct. But they cook it in front of you on like a teppanyaki plate and you have your own chef who's cooking your personal steak.
Yeah.
And obviously they make a big performance of it and they'll bring in some
It's
fresh
fun.
veggies and whatever. But you'll never, ever taste a steak this good ever again and it kind of ruins you. So I was like, we're going to do, because we're not massive, like we're foodies, but we're not like, we need to go to a Michelin restaurant. Couldn't care less. But that's the one thing that we're doing that's very lovely. So that'll be exciting.
Good. So I had some Wagyu. I don't believe it was Kobe, but it was beautiful marbled.
There's 3 different types.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was beautiful marbled, and they did that thing, it was sort of Japanese barbecue where you've got the coals in front of you, and they've got a little fan blowing air on the coals so the coals stay nice and hot, and they bring out the plate with all the slices of different meats. We got like a mixed platter. It was about $200 for a pretty modest platter, but fried them up and then ate them, and I've never experienced meat that felt like it was fading away, like a boiled lolly, just sort of fades away into nothing. Right? I've had meat that's exceptionally tender, but at a granular level, each sort of fiber within the meat still holds together. This was dissolving.
Yes.
This was actually disappearing to nothing, and it was incredible. And the taste was fantastic. So I get the fascination. I think it's one of those things that you need to do once.
Yeah,
but
you
you'll
just
pay
do
for
it once as like a little bit of a fancy thing, and
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, you can't really go wrong in Japan. But anyway, I will be podcasting from Japan.
Do you need me to give you a dropped pin on a map for the hole in the wall where the okonomiyaki was amazing?
It's octopus, right?
No. The okonomiyaki, if I've got the name right, I might have the name wrong, but it's the kind of like the pancake with cabbage.
Oh, yeah.
And then egg and bacon.
You can send me a pin?
Yeah. It's in...
Can I randomly plug something? This has got nothing to do with the podcast, but I stumbled upon this app. It's a fairly new app. It's called Romy. I'm going to show you, because I can't really pull it up on screen. But basically, if you're going through Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and there's a reel or a video, you send that over to this app called Romy, and it will go through it, and then on your map, it will pin those locations. So rather than having to save all the videos, so if I show
show that to the camera.
Hang on.
Not me.
There.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it. I mean, you zoom in. So all of those pins are different locations that have popped up on Instagram. And then what I do is I go, all right, I want to go to Shibuya. Click on that, and it's got all the locations that I've chosen. And then you can say, plan trip, plan it. And then you go, I'm going to be there for 3 days, confirm. And then it literally will take all those places you've saved and create an itinerary based on that trip.
That is very, very
pretty
impressive.
amazing.
Very, very impressive. And, I've got to say, in Japan, Google works a treat. It tells
Google's
you exactly where to go, what to do. I mean, you tell me where to go all the time, but Google was actually useful, telling me where to go and how to, like, which train to catch and where to...
What carriage to be on, what exit.
Yeah, down to the carriage and the exits to use from the train stations. Really amazing. Japan, highly recommend. Highly recommend. Great
Shall we
experience.
do a word?
Let's do a word.
All right, ready? 3.
How about disaster? How about leave the planet now while there's still
Armageddon?
time? Is that a single word, or could you just hyphenate that maybe?
Armageddon.
Armageddon, that'll do.
All right, ready? 1, 2.
Now.
Left or right?
Right, top.
Maculated.
That's left. I can see where you're looking.
Oh, sorry. Left, quotient or quota.
I know quotient. Go with maculated.
Precocious.
I don't know maculated.
Maculated. Let's see. Maculated has been in English since the 14th century and derives from the Latin macula, meaning to stain or blemish. We can use this. Around the time the word first appeared, spots, blemishes, or lesions on the skin were among the symptoms of the Black Death.
Oh, yeah.
So for someone to become spotted, maculated, was very bad news. The word has also a secondary meaning, to become besmirched or blemished by something, like our Constitution.
Or like the Liberal Party
Yeah.
and their We Believe statement has been well and truly maculated.
Maculated. Yeah. Reckon we can use that?
I reckon we can use that.
Maculated.
Maculated. You got to do it with the Australian. Maculated.
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 I get told off for being a bogan. Was it you the other day that said, yeah, you read it wrong on the
I read it wrong. Yeah.
Bogani.
I
am a Bogani.
It was Bogan 1 for those that don't watch the Monday Live.
Bogan
it was VN
1.
Bogan 1. And I read it wrong one
Vin
time.
Morganly.
One time. Hey, you know how bad my eyes are. You know I can't see a damn thing.
So the username
It looked like a capital I
was
at the end.
VN Bogan 1, and you read it as Vin Boganly. Bogany.
I read it as VN Bogani. Because it looked like a capital I on the end. And I was like, is that Bogan I? Is that Bogani? Are they Italian?
So if anyone attacks
Like
me for my...
Vincenzo Bogani. Like it works.
It's like instead of saying target, it's Target.
Target.
Yeah, so I am a Bogani.
Yes. And Mrs. Bouquet.
Mrs. Bouquet.
Yes.
Mrs. Bucket.
Mrs. Bucket. However, we're going to have to say, what's the word? Maculated. We're going to have to say maculated in an Australian.
So it's a blemish. So
a blemish.
How would we put this in a sentence?
Stain. Well, I mean, I would say that the once proud history of the Liberal Party's defence of individual liberty has been maculated.
Yeah, I would say that the reputation of all current sitting LNP members is maculated.
Yes, I would say that my dad was driving on the way down here, and some of his manoeuvres made me maculate my pants.
That's far too much information. All right, so first, before we get into that, because we will get into that and it's going to be bad, I want to just prove something, because you and I are almost like oracles. It's almost like
I don't know if I can handle that pressure.
We can see the future. And people will think, wow, you've just got this otherworldly ability. Not that, human behavior is incredibly predictable.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And that history...
We're just amazing.
Yes, no, this is just us being wonderful individuals. But let me bring your attention to this current story from Channel 7.
A Western Sydney support worker is accused of stealing millions of dollars meant for disability services.
No.
The NDIS
Never.
provider's business is now set to be shut down as he faces possible jail time.
Well, that's the end of the corruption then.
An
I'm glad we fixed
NDIS
that.
provider accused of turning disability support into personal profit.
Mr. Chami, are you a fraudster?
Yes,
Bilal Chami is allegedly a multi-millionaire. Money federal investigators say came from years of fraudulent claims.
Did you pretend to support
news.
people with a
Don't believe it.
disability?
The Western Sydney man is accused of laundering $3.6 million in cash between 2022 and 2025. In a raid at a Villawood home, police seized $35,000 in cash along with air guns and gel blasters.
The AFP makes no apology for targeting anyone who tries to exploit Commonwealth programs designed to support people
Wow,
who
way to
genuinely
sound like
need
you're
them.
reading a script.
It's alleged the fraud involves
Isn't that horrible?
claims for services that were never provided to NDIS participants.
Every dollar that is taken from a person with disability by a fraudster is a dollar wasted, and we will not stand for it. And if you are engaged in fraud, you should expect a knock on the door.
A magistrate today barred Chami from running or working for any disability support provider. He's been granted bail under strict conditions.
The 31-year-old faces up to 4 years behind bars if convicted.
Will you be fighting these charges?
Emily Francis, 7 News.
I mean, who could have possibly seen that coming?
Look, it's amazing that anyone would try and take advantage of a soft federal government program that is ripe for exploitation. You know, in all seriousness, the warnings have been there the whole time. This isn't the first prosecution, to be fair. This isn't the first.
No.
3.6 million also isn't the biggest. But we also know, because research was done, I don't remember the name of the individual, but the government appointed somebody to actually look into the NDIS, and they found that 90% of all NDIS providers have indicators of fraud.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean 90% are fraudulent. What he's talking about in the language of bureaucracy is that at least 90% lack the right safeguards and checks for the investigator to be able to verify that there wasn't fraud.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not saying 90% are fraudulent. We know that some are fraudulent because they've been prosecuted and they've been found guilty. We also have an enormous amount of evidence, and what's his name? We've talked about him before, who's been running around Western
Shirley.
Sydney. No, running around Western
Drew
Sydney.
Pavlo.
Drew Pavlo and his mate, I apologize to both of you, I don't remember the name. You know, they've been running around trying to just lay eyes, doing what Nick Shirley did in Minnesota. They've been just trying to lay eyes on these facilities and say, hey, are you open? Is there anything going on here? And boy, there's an awful lot of unanswered questions out of that.
Well, it's just racist to even ask those questions, isn't it?
Sure, but you know, there's so many businesses where it just doesn't stack up. It doesn't add up at all. The number of anecdotes I get every time I do a video about the NDIS, I get three very distinct responses. People outraged that I would dare attack the NDIS. How, you know, I don't know what it's like to be disabled. How could I possibly have an opinion? People who are seriously disabled saying, thank you for speaking up. I'm infuriated as I watch all these people mooching off the support that's meant to be for people like me. I can't even get the support, but I'm watching people, you know.
Do you know what annoys
rot the
me about
system.
this?
Yeah.
Is like when you and I say that, and this, I mean, I've said this a billion times on this podcast. Listen to the words we're saying, not what you think we're about to say. So when I say things like, we definitely need support for people who need it.
Yeah.
We definitely need accessibility for people who are born disabled who can't do things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that everyone should have access to this. People are like, oh, you don't care about disabled people.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I actually care about them and I want them to get support. So I don't want people who think that mild autism or ADHD should be something that the NDIS supports.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I want them to actually get looked after, which means I want the government as far away from them as possible.
Yeah.
I want private charity to actually be what fills that gap. I don't want them to be left with nothing, but the government has no business being in that line of work. Now, we saw this with pink bats, the whole pink bat program that got rorted. We saw this with the cash for clunkers. We've seen this, you know, every state that does a gun buyback in the US, people start cobbling together things out of scrap that meet the technical definition of a gun, and they just get $100 for handing in some wood and some metal and a nail with a spring. You know, every time you create an incentive, you will create more of whatever that thing incentivizes. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. For those that are disabled, if you think it's hard being disabled in a rich country, try being disabled in a bankrupt country. And that's where we're headed right now. And that's a terrible, terrible outcome for people that are. The third kind of response that I get, just to finish what I was saying before, so I get people outraged that I would dare attack the NDIS. I get people with serious disability thanking me for saying what I said. And then I get people that have worked in the NDIS or want to sort of talk about the fraud that they've seen. And the stories are eye-watering. The amounts of money involved, how blatant it can be at times. These people just don't care. And
the one thing we're seeing coming out of the US with everything that Nick Shirley's done is that it's not just the person who's doing the fraud. It's all the people around them who are also benefiting.
Benefiting or turning a blind eye at the very least. I don't want to be a racist. I don't want to be accused of anything.
So you're complicit in your silence, or like even if you didn't have a direct hand. So whether it's all obviously speculation at this point until there's been more people looking into it. But Ilhan Omar, Tim Waltz, whether or not they themselves had a direct hand in this, we don't know. But the fact that this is happening under their watch at such a prolific level is insane to believe that they didn't have a hand in it. These people weren't in control of it, or at least alerted to it. And I think what's happened with the left is that because they want to be seen as so inclusive and so accepting and so, it's in this dire need to look like they care, they will see these things and go, no, we cannot say anything about that because we don't want to make them look bad, because then the right will run with it. Saw that with the Pakistani rape gangs.
Yeah, 100%.
And so Western Sydney man, I mean, Changi, is that Indian?
I'm
Changi?
not sure. It can be, yeah.
Sri
Lankan.
Sri Lanka, who knows? I don't know what his nationality is. But if you look at that, he looks, of Southeast Asian descent.
Sure.
Can't say that he's a fraudster until it's obviously been proven in court, because you don't want to give them...
And that's fair.
Yeah. But this is the thing. In our desperate bid to not be racist and not do these things, then things like Minnesota happen, where it could have been stopped at a smaller level had you just been able to go, I actually don't care about race. What I care about is the fraud. But the left make everything about race.
And this is where group rights are trumping individual rights. We're so afraid to upset a group because our law has been written to protect groups that we no longer judge people at an individual level. Now, there's the positive side of that. If someone does something good, we should applaud that no matter who they are. But also, if someone does something wrong, we need to punish that, irrespective of what group they belong to. This is why I bang on and on and on about it has to be individual rights. People want to say, we should ban people from this country, that country, blah, blah, blah. No. Treat people as individuals and hold every individual.
You sound like me now.
I'm out of breath. I just ran downstairs to get my laptop because my editor in the Philippines sent me a message saying that I'd forgotten to do something. Sorry, Roy, I did forget. Actually, I thought it was uploading and it was not. So anyway, that file is now uploading for him off to the side here. And I'm sucking down air and trying not to sound like I'm out of breath, but I am. We need to prosecute individuals and judge every individual against the law exactly the same. No more of this sob story. He grew up in a war zone. It's his culture. No. Forget all of that. The law is the same for every single one of us, and we need to be judged individually. And if we did that, these problems wouldn't fester to the point that they become group problems. The group wouldn't form if we dealt with the individuals at the start.
Yeah. I put up a post on Instagram. We briefly talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the whole bikini grok thing.
Yeah.
And this is obviously part of my master's, right? Like I studied AI. So
just a little heads up, please.
No. This is Elon Musk in an iridescent bikini.
Looking fine.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It's got a right rig there.
Better abs than me.
Yeah. So I put this up on Instagram, and obviously the reaction was pretty polarizing.
Yeah.
Because I made a claim in there, which is exactly what my entire thesis was, that we are scapegoating AI for human behavior.
For humans. Yeah, exactly.
And people were aghast that I made this suggestion. They're like, no, AI is evil. I'm like, no, what you're actually afraid of is your own reflection. AI is not sentient yet. Maybe it'll get there. But AI is firstly trained off existing human data.
Yep.
So the human had to make that for the AI to then be trained on it.
Yep.
And if you don't like what people are making with AI, then ask yourself what far worse is happening that the AI is accessing. Yeah. And so in this, people are like, Grok's terrible. I'm like, the whole point of this. I did not make that image of Elon with Grok.
Well, Grok would be traumatized if you had it.
I made that with Google's Nano Banana.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't even have to, people are like, you have to be crafty with your prompts. No, you don't. No. I just said, put Elon Musk, and I gave them a photo of him.
Yeah.
Elon Musk in an iridescent bikini. Boom. Seconds.
And then did you shortly afterwards get a mental health support worker giving you a phone call because the AI had reported you for immediate intervention?
No.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm telling you now, I'm not encouraging this. I'm telling you, we know, the average person knows of Grok, ChatGPT, Nano Banana maybe, and Midjourney.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, I use a program called Krea. Krea is its own AI, but in Krea, it's an aggregator of a whole bunch of other AI apps. And we have Western ones, which ChatGPT has some pretty strong parameters in. You can't do a lot of things, but you can manipulate ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, I can't do political figures. And then 2 seconds later, it gives me Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can. You just got to be crafty with your prompts. But the ones that you should worry about are the Ukrainian ones.
Correct.
Are the Chinese ones.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you now, you can make them do whatever you want.
Oh, yes. And that's not a good thing.
So I put this argument together and I said, every moral panic needs a villain. And the story is too simple. It's actually we're looking at human behavior. And boy, did this get people upset.
Yeah.
Because I dared to hold the mirror up to themselves, right? Yeah. And, I said, if you're looking at grok like it's evil, then you need to admit that humans are inherently evil then, because that's what it is. The people who are making these malicious images and sexualizing young women are people who are doing that with or without AI. And it got people pretty offside. So, I mean, the quote that I wrap up my thesis with is AI did not invent these ideals. It inherited them from us. And it's interesting that when you present an argument like this to people, people will still go, well, I'm not like that. So no, it's not that. Right.
And we know any form of power, any form of energy is an amplifier. Mm-hmm. So if someone is an asshole because they got rich, no, they were an asshole the whole time. Once they got rich, they felt licensed.
Yes.
The amplification effect took a hold, and the flaws in your character get amplified when you get access to power. Now, we get access to energy. Now, money is a form of energy. Electricity, AI is a form of energy. Social capital, where you can say something and other people will act in response, is a form of energy. When you start to control more energy, when you start to have more power, it amplifies the flaws in you. The fact that someone who might otherwise seem completely normal will jump onto AI and use it to make horrific things is amplifying a flaw that was already there. Right? It's not that the AI made me do this. That's BS. You did this on the AI because you suddenly had the power. You suddenly, that wasn't an option, or at least you had to pretend like you weren't that way inclined until suddenly you felt like you had access to energy that could fulfill whatever that flaw is. And so you're dead right. People hate what they see when they look in the mirror because we tell ourselves that our flaws aren't there, right? So we don't like it when our flaws get amplified, but money will amplify your flaws. Yep. Sorry, but AI and AI image generation, especially for men who are more visually oriented, are going to amplify your flaws. Have a read of some just pure text-based porn that is written for women. Like that shit is fucked up.
Oh my God, the chick lit. I've never read any of these books, but I see them pop up on Instagram.
It's insane
what they talk about, and it's like there was a trend for a little while ago, and it was when you're streaming or Bluetoothing your phone and it goes to the wrong speaker and it starts playing in your husband's car or whatever, and the husband hears like oh, he's large, dinosaur dick and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't listen to this stuff, and I'm like, why is this enjoyable to women? And there's another trend at the moment. This is so crass, but this is real. This is what people do.
Yeah.
So in this, like one of the lines will be like, she could barely get 2 hands around it, right? Referring to his member. and then the girls in these videos are making this, and they're grabbing all these objects, and they're like, and then they grab something they can't put 2 hands around. They're like,
yeah.
And so they're going, how is this?
Yeah,
they're like, oh, it's just make-believe. I'm like, it's no different. Just pointing it out there.
Yeah, correct. And you're dead right, it's not. The imagination seems to be a much more powerful tool, a much more powerful erotic tool for women, and the eyeballs are a much more powerful erotic tool for men. But we both explore them in some really, really messed up ways, and AI has obviously enabled that.
I know this because when we put up that, I'm not putting it back up again. I've traumatized people enough. The image of you in the bikini. In the comments were people saying, not my proudest wank. And I'm like... Yes.
A bunch of blokes to be clear, jumping in at an image of me, not just in a bikini. I made that image. I then told it to make me morbidly obese.
Yeah.
And it actually didn't go as far as I was kind of hoping that it would, but I stuck with it. I didn't want to spend any more time on it. But like gut hanging over the top, like it's not a good look. It's not pretty at all. And I mean, me in a bikini at my actual size is not pretty, let alone once you add another 50 kilos. But yeah, people's response. And I find that hilarious. I'm not offended. I'm not, it's, oh, that's disgusting. No, like that's funny. There's one of the great moments of 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown was when Sean Locke, so they have the host. Yeah, that's the picture. All right. And yeah, people are saying, not my proudest wank.
It's the snail trail for me.
Yeah. Took me half an hour, but I got there, like all that sort of stuff. And it harks back to a great joke by Sean Locke. He's on 8 out of 10 Cats, which is a UK kind of panel-based comedy competition show. And as these shows do, they have the sort of the girl who's attractive who puts things up on the board and so forth. Now, in her case, I can't remember her name. She's also a genius. She's a genuine, legitimate like math genius, and she solves the math puzzles and verifies whether the contestants have got stuff right. And the stuff she can do with numbers is phenomenal. And she also happens to be very pretty, so she's good sort of presenter material. Anyway, they do a bit where they have her, and the show's ridiculous. For those that haven't seen it, the show's constantly ridiculous. This is well within the scope of the show. They weren't mocking her. They had her come out in a mock skiing outfit that she would wear. And the idea being that, if she goes the reason she loves skiing is because no one can see her face, so she gets to be anonymous.
Yeah.
So she puts on this thing, and it's this big kind of beard, like a merkin for your face, I guess. Big fuzzy thing, and a hat, and it had Viking horns, if my memory serves me correctly. And Sean Locke, genius of timing, everyone's kind of laughing at the costume, and he just says, "That's a challenging wank," and it just breaks the whole room. And just this beautiful moment of timing. Now, of course, that's going back a little bit. Sean Locke has passed away since then. If he did that now, instant cancellation.
Yeah.
Like, his career is so over. She was laughing, not feeling mocked at. She appreciated the timing and the comedy. This is what that whole show was about. Jimmy Carr was the host. They'd give him stick the whole time for his taxes because he got in trouble for tax evasion.
Yes.
And blah, blah, blah. And they would every episode, they would find some way to needle him about his taxes. They had male models in little briefs. They'd do prizes at the end, and they'd come out and like these ripped male models in these little tiny briefs. Like you want to talk about the objectification, like they're doing it to the men as well, right? Just a hilarious show. But without Sean Locke, it was never the same, and that show I believe has ended. But I wonder, a bit like Monty Python, like you can't do that anymore. No. I mean, we can online. A bunch of blokes did it to me with that picture, and it's funny. But how much have we lost as a result of our sensitivity?
I think a lot. I think creatively as well, like not just like comedy is obviously really important. Comedy always needs to be on that edge of culture as well. It always needs to be a bit like, whoa, can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it funny. But I mean, look at the Hollywood. Look at the music we're getting these days. It's terrible. It's all watered down. You can't say anything. Or if you can say something, it has to be
about your wet ass pussy.
Yeah, or it's. This is the thing, right? Because people go, oh, Carly, because I put up something years ago when WAP came out. Yeah. WAP is Wet Ass Pussy by Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. And I was really disgusted by that. I'm not even a prude. Like, I just sort of go, really?
Yeah, like that's what you got?
And people, at the time, people were like, oh, Carly, you've got a short memory. What about Lil' Kim and Salt and Pepper? I'm like, yes. And they were outrageous at the time too. Just because they came before it didn't mean it's any less outrageous. And I'm like, this is different, but I think it's the same concept. For example, for a woman to look sexy, I think subtlety is actually sexier than overt sexual clothing. For example, showing your shoulder or a little bit of leg is sexier to me than just literally having your tits out. Right? Or having a super short miniskirt. Now, some guys will be like, oh, I disagree. Okay, fine, whatever. I think the allure and the mystery behind, that intrigue is what gets your imagination going.
Tell you what, ladies, high front, low back, long skirt with a deep slit. Like if you want to go to like a high fashion ball and you want to smolder, go that path. Yeah. Don't go the low front and the short skirt. Don't let the others do that. You go that path.
Honestly, and this is the thing, because our imagination is powerful. If you're obvious with it, you're like, okay, that's your tits, great. But if it's like a suggestion, that's what gets the imagination going. And that's also a big way of building attraction. And so it's the same with this music. If you have to say wet ass pussy, and there's a line in that, sorry to be crass, but it's a real song.
Yeah.
Swipe your nose like a credit card. I'm like, That. Like, I can't believe
It's playing on the radio, for crying out loud. Like, this is playing in supermarkets.
Just to be clear, because I know Roy will cut this segment. Topher's audience, look at me, look at me. Topher's audience, before you get all your knickers in a twist and be like, oh, Topher, how do you have this girl on your show? By the way, this is my house and my studio. Yeah. Anyway, but when you're going all upset about this is mainstream. Yeah. This is not niche. This is not random. This was like the number one song.
It was the number one song
in the country in 2021.
Something like that. And there's a comedian that did a wonderful bit because right at the exact same time they were trying to cancel "Baby It's Cold Outside." So we're cancelling "Baby It's Cold Outside." This sort of crooner,
was a suggestion.
Crooner song about a suggestive conversation where a guy's trying to convince a girl to stay for the night. And at the same time as we're cancelling that song, Wet Ass Pussy is number one.
Yeah, and so when I heard that as like, oh, swipe your nose like a credit card, like it's talking about oral sex, I sort of go, no, that doesn't. That actually makes me go, ew.
You probably need to wipe your credit card machine. That's not hygienic. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like that doesn't. Yeah. And there's another song, just to be crass. This is another big song by Nicki Minaj, who now has become like a bit MAGA.
Yes.
And Nicki Minaj was also quite outlandish. She had a song called Anaconda, which was a take on the If You Like Big Butts song.
My anaconda don't
want none.
Yeah.
And I think that song lyrically, musically is rubbish. That to me sounds like AI slop.
It is disposable music, yes.
I'm like, it's not even clever. I love clever songs. I love good melodies. But a song whose melody I love, I can't play it because obviously it's YouTube, is Truffle Butter by Nicki Minaj. Now, that song, I'll play the opening parts of it. I
like
can't
if you play like 3 seconds and hopefully I'll recognise it. If you play more than that, we'll get done for copyright.
So it's this.
Less than a minute left on this upload, Roy. Oh, yeah.
You know that song?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Love that song.
Right.
Are you aware?
Good baseline.
Are you aware of what truffle butter means?
I hadn't thought about it, probably as a self-defense mechanism, but now you're making me think about it.
I'm not going to explicitly say to you, but if I say you go from the back to the front, does that give you enough?
I'd kind of figured it was going to be something along that line. Yeah.
So let me get to Lil Wayne's verse. Hang on.
Really?
All right.
I thought that 2 Girls, 1 Cup was going to be the low point of this podcast.
No, this is.
We're still digging.
Hang on.
We are still digging.
It's 15 seconds, right, before you get copyrighted?
I don't know.
So I'm aiming for 8, so we don't get done. Hang on.
All right.
Flirting after checking my account, pretty ladies, are you here?
Okay, hang on. It's this bit. Ready? One. Sorry, guys. I'm doing this for copyright.
Truffle butter on your pussy, cuddle buddies on the low. You ain't got.
Okay, that's the song. That was a chart topper. I loved that song, and then when it gets to Lil Wayne's verse, I'm always like, if you didn't put that in, it was a killer song.
Yeah, great
when you're
bass
that
line.
over the top, I'm like, you kind of ruined it.
And again, it's that subtlety thing.
Yeah,
like he's being so overt.
That's
that
what I mean.
It's just it becomes crass.
So it's Drake, Nicki Minaj, and then Lil Wayne, and Nicki Minaj is talking about being the highest selling female rapper of all time.
Right.
Drake's talking about being able to get 2 girls to have a threesome, and then Lil Wayne's just like, well, I got this.
That shows some differences in priorities.
Yeah, and it's sort of like these songs would still be brilliant if you weren't so explicit with the lyrics. I don't think that's necessary.
It's not necessary.
But when we're getting angry about all this stuff, it's already happening. It was happening prior to AI.
Okay. I can't help but notice that we're 48 minutes in, and I feel like we're both avoiding the elephant in the room because we don't want to go there.
I'm going to give you 2 little caveats and then we'll go into it because we'll probably be talking about this for an hour. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember a little while ago the story about the $20,000 desk that Labor paid for?
Me.
Okay, so
I do, but I don't.
So a custom-made taxpayer-funded desk, which was kept away from prying eyes. So I've just got a photo, but I'm going to pull up the original story so we've got something to talk about. This is just an example of government ridiculousness, right? So it came out that somehow, I think it was in Canberra, so Jane Hume found it. Yeah, Canberra's Way. So who was it that actually did it? The Department of Parliamentary Services, Kate Saunders, I think was the one that got this desk. So it came out during the Senate's estimates hearing in February 2025. Yarla Hinchcliffe, who is now the department secretary, defended the furniture suite, which also included a $8,680 table, a $26,260 wall unit, and a $4,562 fridge wall unit.
I too like my furniture gold plated.
And so at the time, she said the furniture is beautiful and was manufactured in-house by our staff, and they have done amazing work on it. Anyway, so what do you imagine a $20,000 desk looks like?
Okay, before we get to what it looks like, I'm now thinking if it's manufactured in-house by their staff, those staff are already on salary. So those costs probably don't include the labour time of the staff. That would have been accounted for separately. So we're now probably talking about desks that cost actually quite a lot more than that if you were to factor in the amount of time wasted on them.
So it says in this article, it was revealed that the Department of Parliamentary Services had spent more than $3.8 million on furniture since 2015, which also included
there's no corruption here.
$69,946 on new office tables and $18,650 for a new sub-table offices.
And that's each, isn't it? That's for each of the tables. They're spending that much.
So I just want you guys to, since we've been talking about imagination,
it's either got to be enormous or phenomenally intricate.
And like park tray sort of like inlays.
It's going to be like it'll be the Resolute desk. But like the version of it that you see in National Treasure, where it's got all the secret compartments.
Yes,
like
and you keep opening things and pop it out, like Louis VIII desks and stuff like that.
It needs to be like a transformer where you push a button on this thing and it turns into a butler or something.
Are you ready? Can I have a drum roll? All right, guys, let's see what $20,000 gets you.
That's underwhelming.
It looks like a plywood desk.
It's certainly veneer. The book matched the veneer on it, so it's not even a solid timber. So what's the IKEA catalogue number on that?
I'm not a woodworker, and I'm trying to. That grain is too perfect. That can't be.
No. That could be real grain, but it's book matched. So see how it repeats itself.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
So what they do is they slice it. So that'll be two pieces of timber, each 1 millimeter thick, from directly next to each other. So they slice it and then they book match. They flip one over. It's quite a common thing with really high end cars and that sort of thing. But the thing with this is, so you'll notice how also there's a border around that piece. Right, that's what they do. So they'll do that to hide the fact that on the side it's just MDF or medium density fiber or some kind of a manufactured timber. That is not even a solid timber desk for that kind of money.
Presumably, this is the wall unit behind that was $26,000.
Can I also note they have not even matched the timber between the wall unit and the desk that's sitting in front of it. Now you've got multiple tones of timber. That's a yellow-based timber on the desk and a red-based timber or a brown-based timber on the wall. This is fucking sacrilege, and they're spending that much money on it?
Like, you know how we talk about it, there's always the straw that breaks the camel's back, and in COVID it was the playgrounds.
The desk that breaks the camel's dick? Like, this is
this not insulting to your intelligence? Is this making you...
This is the CIA, or this is the State Department spending $500 on a shovel.
Yeah.
Right? This is a way of them funneling money off to other stuff, whether it's their mates or whether it's projects that they don't want to put on the budget officially. This is not legit. This is not for real.
This is just outrageous. And this is just one tiny example. I'm sure, like, across the board, if you were to uncover all this is so insulting to your average person, right? And like when it comes to wall units, you see money-saving hacks all the time on social media. And one that I love, I don't own, so I can't do it, is people will go to IKEA and buy the Billy bookcases,
right,
and then put them on the wall, screw them in, and then build like a little bit of a facade, so it looks like an inbuilt cabinet.
Yeah.
And they do it for $1,000, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So we can have people who don't have the means to taxpayer expense shit like this and make things that look truly wonderful.
Yep.
And then you spend $26,000 on this unit or this $20,000 desk, and that's what you get. You kind of go, huh?
Yeah, they're taking the piss.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And I bet you each piece of timber was like $1,000 because, you know.
To be fair, timber can be expensive.
I know
right?
it can, but what I'm saying is they're inflating the prices.
But also, there is no justification for buying expensive timber on the taxpayer's dime. This desk needs to function. Yes, maybe it needs to look nice. Maybe it's public facing. Maybe, I don't know what room that's sitting in. Maybe that's a meeting room. Maybe they're going to have foreign dignitaries, what have you. You want it to look nice. Okay. But you're not running out there buying the extinct blackwood, you know, that's been reclaimed from a sunken sailing ship. Like you just get some nice looking timber. It doesn't have to be the sort of the $500 a meter kind of stuff.
I know I've said this before. I keep making this joke, but, you know, the whole Pluto in Aquarius.
Mm.
I'm sorry. This is literally let them eat cake. We are reliving,
we're pushing it,
reliving that. This is getting to a point where that's so insulting, right? You've got people living in their cars. You've got people who can't get into the bottom rung of the property ladder. You've got people who are paying almost 70% of their income to their rent. Mm-hmm. And then the government somehow, somewhere, rubber stamps almost, you know, $100,000 for one room's furniture.
But sorry, Carly, I don't know if you got the memo. If you're having trouble with the cost of living, you should stop having avocado on your toast in the morning. Okay?
No.
That'll fix it.
The new one's coffee.
It's coffee, is it?
Yes,
right,
and subscriptions. Have you not heard this one?
Oh, look, it's hard to keep up.
The new one's the Netflix.
Right.
You shouldn't have so many subscriptions. That's the new one.
Yeah, well, if I could unsubscribe from the government, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to solve all of my other financial problems. I was going to say, the biggest
subscription I have is the ATO.
Yeah. By far. And boy, do they get upset when you try and cancel.
Yeah. I find that they make it impossible to cancel.
Yep. Yeah, and in fact, I mean, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but you know, they'll come after you to enforce their contract, and we might be approaching a day when we need to start thinking about how we enforce our breaking of the contract. But anyway, we'll get to that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, when I was saying before about let them eat cake, like for those who don't know your French history, it's about
Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette, and was it Louis the Eighth?
Not Mary. Marie
was it Henry VIII? King Louis VIII?
I don't recall.
I can't remember which one it was.
I just blame the woman.
It's when the bourgeoisie were living the high life in the Palace of Versailles.
Something like that.
And the wealth spent by Marie Antoinette and Louis VIII, or the 16th, was it?
I don't remember.
God, that's terrible.
I just blame the woman.
King
I didn't
Louis...
know we were going to be doing French history. I didn't brush up before the podcast. You're the one that got me in this mess.
And Marie Antoinette. What is he? King Louis the 16th.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, I like to be correct when I say these things.
I love to be correct. I rarely am, but I love to be correct.
Yeah, so they were spending, obviously, and they kept lifting the taxes, and people were starving, and it ended up with them being beheaded.
So the particular line, let them eat cake, is somewhat apocryphal, but is true in principle, where...
there's no confirmation she actually said it.
People came to her, the story goes that people came to her saying the people have run out of bread. And they were doing it as a warning, like, hey, this is getting grim now. And her response by law, by myth, I guess, is, well, then let them eat cake. And... it's debatable whether she was just being completely dismissive and genuinely didn't care, even though she understood the situation, or whether she was actually just so out of touch that a world in which you didn't have food was incomprehensible to her. So the sentence, they've run out of bread, was specific to bread, and not as in they're starving.
Yeah.
And shortly afterwards, she parted ways with her head.
Yeah, she did. And I think people... forget history, or they don't want to look back on history because they're like, oh, we're so much more evolved from that. But that kind of thinking maculates onto your audience.
I knew you were looking it up.
How did you know?
Because you have to go and check the tab. You always have to switch tabs.
I didn't actually have the tab open. I was like, it was maculate, wasn't it? I was like, oh, fuck, maculate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I knew it was. Anyway, well done. Well done. And well used. You win.
Yeah, but, have you been to Versailles?
No.
Insane.
Okay, so when I was 7, the family did our one big thing. My dad had one good year in business, and we spent all that money in 3 months overseas. We went to a palace in France. But I think it was actually, I don't think it was Versailles. I think they said that it was one of his summer hunting cottages, but it's this phenomenal mind-blowing, opulent, sprawling thing.
Let's just give everyone a quick history lesson.
A history lesson.
I burnt my tongue on Monday, and it has not recovered.
It's a shame. You didn't just decide to keep going and maybe.
So this is the grounds of Versailles.
Okay, enlarge that one.
Look at this thing, and this is all the photos. Yeah. Hang on. Oh no.
Yeah, nope.
Okay.
Well, yeah, not that.
Get stuff.
That on the right hand side, that one, is that what you clicked on? The all the way over, the one that's already large. Yeah.
That's what I clicked on.
Okay, so just right click and then open photo.
What do you mean right?
Open photo in new tab. Surely you have that option. And now open that. Click on that tab. No, that's open. That was open web page, not open photo. Never mind. See, I can't even do tech support for you, Carly. I tech kids these days.
But yeah, anyway, for everyone's just getting really frustrated. But this is the grand hall. This is kind of what I was looking for, the inside. The magnitude of Versailles is, it's until you're there, you don't understand it. Like the Great Hall. Are any of these photos going to...
Just actually load as a photo. Can you not just right click and say open photo in new tab? Rather than open tab?
No, it says open a new window.
Okay, so go down further.
Open image. Oh, there we go.
Yes. Now click on that. Oh, it's the same size. Okay. If they're higher resolution, then you'll get a bigger picture. But yeah, I mean...
You just taught me something. Didn't know you could do that.
There you go. And it was tech related as well. On your Mac, no less. I'm going to dine out on this memory for 20 years.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, look, I don't want to say over the top, but I can understand how someone living in a one-room thing with all of their kids, eating meat only once or twice a week if they're lucky, and wearing the same clothes for years on end might have an issue with that. Yeah,
I mean,
just a little bit.
All of the frescoes, is that what you call them, on the roof?
No, the
paintings on the roof, like just extraordinary.
Oh, and not to mention just the sheer amount of gold involved in all the gilding and all of that. I mean,
but I mean, obviously we don't build specifically like this, but $20,000 desks, paying for your family to come and reunite with you on a ski trip. Yeah. It's all the same thing. It's just so insulting. It's so insulting. And this is the stuff that it doesn't bother people enough, clearly. I mean,
what's even worse now is back then they were at least honest with you. We rule by force.
Yeah, we are the monarchy.
We are the monarchy. We own you, and we will take from you whatever we want. They weren't trying to pretend anything. No. Now they insult our intelligence by pretending to be servants. We call them public servants.
Yes.
By pretending to be acting in our best interest, to be out there panhandling for votes on the basis of what they will do for us. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the bit that gets my goat.
Yeah. I think the issue we have is that the class system back then was so obvious. You belong to a certain class. We like to think we're above that here, but we absolutely have the classes here.
No, absolutely.
We have the political class, then we have the middle class, which is shrinking, and then we just have the working class. And unfortunately, most of us would be considered working class now.
So what's emerging now it is a class, but it works slightly differently. The connected class. Mm-hmm. So we're deep inside the world where you make your money by keeping a bureaucrat happy rather than by keeping customers happy. This is the first step towards fascism. It's what I refer to as corporatism. We're no longer a capitalist society. In a capitalist society, you make money by keeping customers happy. In a corporatist society, you make money by keeping bureaucrats happy. And there's no easier way to keep bureaucrats happy than for that bureaucrat to be your friend.
Yes.
And so what emerges is a new connected class where they are able to make money in whatever the market conditions are. They are able to pivot and survive and find their way forward because they can make their money by keeping bureaucrats happy, and they're already connected in with those people. The politicians, the bureaucrats, they're connected, they're hanging out with each other, and this can arise organically in some situations. You know, a developer's been in a town for long enough that he knows all the town planners personally, and he can jump at opportunities and maybe squeeze a few questionable things through that a different developer who was new to town wouldn't be able to take the risk on because there'd be no guarantee. But it comes right through to like proper corruption where there's brown paper bags under the table and all sorts of things. But ultimately these days you can make more money by being connected than you can by actually being good at business and serving your customers. And that's a really, really dangerous place to be.
All right, let's go.
Yay. Happy days, everybody. Anthony Albanese has protected us and is keeping us safe. And I will never, I can't complain about it, because if I do, I'll go to prison.
So lay it out for the layman. What does this actually mean? Without hyperbole.
Yeah.
What does this actually mean?
So there's actually quite a lot of there's no short answer to that. So this is the point of the Oddcast, is we take our time, we go through these things. So let's just this is going to dominate most of the rest of the podcast. So in essence, what the original bill wanted to do was 4 very distinct things. Federally fund a gun buyback. Now, gun laws are regulated at a state level, so the states would actually then have to make their own regulations for what the state would or would not allow, and their own license categories and everything else. But the federal government were basically saying, we're going to make a bunch of funds available that the states will match in order to fund a gun buyback, so that we take more guns out of private hands. That was one of the 4 objectives, and we'll come back to them all and talk about what happened, what their fate was as we go through. A second one was empowering the immigration minister to more easily refuse visas, to more easily deport people, and to more easily strip people of their citizenship. That's of the 4, that's the only one that I don't have a huge problem with. Yes, if citizenship is a government granted privilege, I don't think that's how it ought to work, but that is how it works, and therefore the government should get to decide. And yes, if people are, wanting to shoot up other people on Australian soil, I'd suggest that's a pretty good reason to kick them out of the country. So that was part 2. Part 3 was hate groups. Now, this is the really, really dangerous one that has me most concerned out of everything, and we'll talk about why that is in a minute. But essentially being able to say, based on your entire history, including things that you did before this bill was passed, we can deem a group to be a hateful group, and we can make it illegal in the same way that they will list terrorist groups and proscribed groups you're not allowed to be a member of in Australia. This essentially lowers the threshold, so they no longer have to actually really be about violence, because you could already list a violent group as a terrorist group. That was already a thing. Yeah. This is about if you are insulting people, if you're making them fear harassment on the basis of their ethnic or national origin, the colour of their skin, etc., then you can become an illegal organisation. We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute because of what it may be laying the groundwork for. And they can do that on the basis of things that happened before the legislation came in, and then if you continue to be a member of that group, or if you and they can say that you're a member, because they can say that you're an informal member. So the group doesn't have to be formal, it doesn't have to have records of membership, you don't have to pay a membership fee. They can just say, oh, you guys hang out a lot, we're deeming you to be a group, you're a member of a group, that's 15 years in prison. Yeah. And the one that I thought briefly had been gotten rid of, but it seems I need to look further into this, so I'm only going to skate lightly over the top of this, but was the hate speech side of things. Now, this is the one that my video is focused on, because this was the most dangerous part of it. This was literally, if you say something and a judge can imagine a person who, in the judge's opinion, is a reasonable person who might fear harassment on the basis of what you said, then you can spend 5 years in prison. The example that I give is if I turn around and run a story on the verifiable fact that India is a hotspot for fake degrees, and that we have people working in this country who have come to this country from India with degrees, and they're in our hospitals, they're in our doctors' clinics, they're working as engineers and school teachers and child carers and all sorts of different things. And there's a legitimate question to be asked about how many of them actually have legitimate degrees versus fake ones. It could be argued that that could cause a person of Indian descent who's in Australia to fear harassment. Yeah. Right? That's not an unreasonable thing to say were I to cover that story. And then, but all of a sudden, instead of it being, okay, and so what? Now, all of a sudden, it's 5 years in prison. And the way that legislation was written, by having what's called strict liability, essentially, once the judge could imagine that someone might have feared feared harassment, once the judge has decided that threshold has been crossed, they no longer have to prove intent. Mm-hmm. So it's no longer about whether you meant to be mean. You said the words. The judge can imagine someone might fear harassment on that basis. So now you go to prison for 5 years. For practical purposes, there's no defense. Yeah. So that was the state of play. That was the 4 things. So there was the guns, there was the immigration, there was the hate groups, and there was the hate speech. Albo put them into an omnibus bill. Now, this is really cynical politics. The reason why they do this is because they design a bill so that their base agrees with all of it, but the opponent's base agrees with some and not with others. And they put their opponents into a position where they're in a lose-lose situation. If they oppose it, they lose because their support base agrees with some parts of it. If they agree with it, they lose. It hurts them because their support base disagrees with part of it. And so it's a wedge. It's a way of wedging your opposition. It's a very tried and proven tactic. Now, Susan Lee should have seen that coming and should have called it out. And instead of saying, oh, this needs to be voted on separately, which is what she did, she needed to say, this undermines fundamental principles of any democratic country and we will not support it in any form. That's what she needed to say right from the get-go. What she fell for the trap. She said, oh, this needs to be split up. All right. Then Albo's sitting there going, right, I want this to get passed. I want all of it to get passed. The problem is I've lost the Greens. The Greens will support the gun stuff, but they won't support the speech stuff because the speech stuff actually has the potential to outlaw them.
No. The Greens were saying it didn't go far enough. It didn't include LGBT.
So yes, but if you dive into it a little bit, the Greens are remember the Greens are quite fractious. So depending on who you talk about, some of them were concerned that the Islamic groups that they actually supported, for example, protesting against Israel. So this comes up in their comments. They're talking about protests against the Israeli occupation of Gaza could be outlawed, and that's true. That is actually true. That's the kind of what this legislation is designed to do. So he lost the support of the Greens for different reasons, but the Greens were not going to support it on the speech side of things. On the speech side of things, and neither were the Liberals. So that wasn't going to get through, but that wasn't a problem for him. Because all he did was split it up. And he could get the Greens to support the guns, so he's going to get that through even without the Liberal National Party. The Nationals came out against all of that. The Liberals were a bit wishy-washy, but it didn't matter. He had the Greens and he had some crossbench, so he was going to get the guns. He's going to get the immigration because the Liberals love being able to boss people around at the borders. They're all for more control over that stuff. So we had the Liberals on that front. And the hate group stuff he had the Liberals on as well. It was only the hate speech stuff that he was really going to have to do any work to get past. Susan Lee fell into line on everything else. And so what he did was he said, we're going to scrap the hate speech side of things. But then when you actually look at the 80-odd pages of legislation that was put forward at about 10 o'clock yesterday morning and then passed through Parliament by 10 o'clock at night, in an absolute travesty for any democratic country, this is not how this is supposed to work. If you read the legislation, I'll do a video on this in the incoming days, it literally includes the language from the hate speech part of the bill. They literally took a bunch of that language, shoehorned it across, said, oh no, this is the hate groups part of the bill. Well, yeah, but if the language is the same, then what it does is the same, right? Now, it's not exactly the same. There are some substantial differences. It's not as bad as all that, but it's pretty damn bad. Yeah. And so by splitting the bill up, exactly like Susan Lee said, if you split the bill up, we'll support it. Well, now he's got not even 75%, he's got 90% of what he wanted rammed through, which I think is actually more than he expected. He never expected to get everything. No one does. Your opening gambit, you're all, in a negotiation. You don't name the price you're actually happy with. You name a much lower price or a much higher price, depending on if you're selling or buying. So I think he got more than he expected. But more than that, Susan Lee actually saved him from a really humiliating confrontation. All she needed to do was to turn around and say, this is undemocratic. This is too rushed. There's been 7,000 submissions by the Australian people that need to be properly considered before we vote on any of this. Just simply stand on the principle of process.
The only person who said that, from what I saw, was Pauline.
Yeah, One Nation. And look, to be fair, Ralph Babette said the same to me in an interview that I did with him yesterday. The usual suspects, the ones that actually care about human rights and democratic process and these sorts of things. So that's what the actual legislation is. All right. So now the government can turn around and prescribe a group as being a hate group. If you continue to be a part of that group in the exclusive opinion of the government without any right for appeal, you can go to prison for 15 years. The government has just extreme arbitrary power over immigration, borders, citizenship, all that stuff. And they now also have the funding for the gun buyback. And a lot of people are focusing on the legislation. That's only one layer. The legislation's bad, right? The legislation's bad, but that's only one layer. But I'm aware I've been talking for a long time. I'm happy to keep going. But
hang on. Let's do that. We'll go to the next one in a second because there's a couple of things here. often when we're talking about previous historical events, whether it's the Holocaust or even recently, a lot of people are talking about Venezuela and Iran.
Yeah.
And I often hear this. And when I say normies, guys, I'm not trying to disparage those people, but obviously the people watching this podcast and me and Topher, we're talking to the same people.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page, mostly. And so these conversations that you and I have, don't misunderstand this. Most people aren't having these.
Yeah.
Your average punter is not currently talking about what happened prior to 1979 for Iran to end up in the hands of Khomeini, right? So a lot of people will look at these laws and go, oh, it's a good thing, and not recognize this is the precursor to what comes next.
Yep. This
is the moment. When everyone says, oh, how did that happen? It happened because right now, as it's happening, people aren't paying attention to it. People don't take it seriously. People don't realize that this is actually the beginning of the end. I'll give you an example. My girlfriend this morning and I were having a chat. Now, she's aligned with us politically and, she's very common sense. I was telling her about the hate speech laws, and she's made a couple of comments to me this year saying, like, I'm tapping out. I can't keep paying attention. It's affecting me. I don't want to know anymore. And she effectively said, I'm sticking my head in the sand.
Yeah.
I understand her sentiment.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I disagree with it. I don't like that. But, she's her own person. I'm my own person. And I was telling her about these laws. And her comment to me was, and I was shocked by this, and I said this to her, like, this is my best mate. I said, this is what's going to happen. She goes, oh, come on now. That's been ridiculous. The judges, when that gets to the Supreme Court or the High Court, they'll stop that. I said, no, this is now the law.
Yep.
The judge's job is to enforce the law.
Yep.
And she goes, oh, no. Like, I have faith that the judges will, strike that out.
The only way that can happen is if the judges find that new law is in contravention of a higher law. So, for example, a constitutional challenge is literally saying this piece of legislation is non-compliant with that part of the Constitution. Yes. They're very difficult cases to win, and even where you win them, they only get struck down insofar as there is a direct contradiction between the two. So, a lot of the law can actually remain intact even after a successful challenge.
But that sentiment from her, and again, I'm not trying to make her look bad, but that's your average person. Oh, it can't get that bad. It won't get that bad. And yet, when we look back at history and we look at these revolutions and we look at the fall of these nations and wonder how it happened because people are asleep at the wheel. People don't realize what's at stake.
Yeah.
If you're not able to say objective truth anymore because it might hurt someone's feelings, then you're starting to limit the way people are able to communicate. This is straight out of Orwell's 1984. They talk about newspeak. And newspeak is about, firstly, prohibiting certain language and also narrowing the language available to be able to have conversations.
So you narrow people's ability to actually analyze things.
Correct. So if you're no longer, and I've said this before, and when we've had discussions around vocabulary, when you start to eliminate words from people's vocabulary because now they're banned or you can't say them, it becomes a lot harder to be effective with your communication because what you have available to you is sort of watered down language. So, for example, let's say radical Islam. There is now, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is now going to be legislation that makes it very difficult for you and I to critique Muslim Brotherhood radical Islam clerics.
Sure.
Because a Muslim may see that as threatening and may feel intimidated and may feel like my statement or my assertion that, these radical Islamists who are calling for jihad affects her, and that could be brought against me.
Yeah, it's not quite that simple in the case of Islam. So these rules, and I'm getting into the weeds here, and I'm not defending this legislation at all, by the way, but just for the sake of precision, these laws are focused on national identity, racial identity, colour of skin, these sorts of characteristics. So it doesn't explicitly protect any individual religion for as long as the critique of that religion is separate from racial or ethnic identity. Yeah. So Judaism is inherently protected under this legislation because in the eyes of the law, at least as it's been explained by the politicians, they view them as one and the same. You can't criticize Judaism without criticizing Jews of ethnic.
Well, they consider Jews a race.
Yeah. and a religion sort of simultaneously.
Yeah.
So that's you can and the same is true of Sikhs.
Yeah.
By the way, they've been named in, and this comes out of an actual inquiry. This is an official response from an official talking about this legislation. Sikhs and Jews would be protected. Muslims, Christians, etc. would not, unless the criticism attached to them specifically. But that's attached to their racial or ethnic origin specifically. But that's a very easy connection to make in a court of law, particularly if you have a sympathetic judge. You could very easily turn around and say,
well, from my understanding, a lot of this is based on feelings.
yeah, the impact that it has on the alleged victim, yes.
Yeah, so feelings, as we know, are subjective and they can be weaponized.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the discussion around trans rights and LGBT and the stigmas and all this sort of stuff. If you're now not able to say things because it hurts people's feelings, well, again, that creates a perverse incentive.
Yeah.
You can weaponize that.
So can we talk about the weaponizing of it?
Can I just show this quickly, just to finish this point? So this is about, I can't say that. What is it?
Tahrir, yeah.
That is
his butt rear, yeah.
That's the hate group, the Islamic hate group.
Yeah.
Now, they are classified as terrorists in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in many countries.
And in Australia, I believe.
No.
They're not in
No.
Australia.
This is the point. Okay,
right.
so if I'm going to say this, I want to make sure I'm really clear.
Hibzat Tahrir. Hizbat Tahrir.
It's not going to give me pronunciation, is it?
Even Wikipedia's like, no, not going there.
So they were founded in 1953. They are classified as a terrorist organization. Let me see if I'm live Googling.
Boy, are we on a watch list now.
Terrorist organization. In which country? AI should give me something. Okay, is a transnational pan-Islamist political organisation that seeks to re-establish the Islamic Caliphate. Whilst it claims to be non-violent, many governments have banned the group, citing its ideology as a conveyor belt for radicalisation and terrorism. They were formally designated as a terrorist organisation and banned in the following countries: the United Kingdom, India, Germany, Russia, Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and various Arab and Central Asian countries like Central Asia, including Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all the stands.
Yeah.
And the exceptions are Lebanon and Yemen. In Australia, they are not banned. They are not a designated terrorist organisation. And this has been an ongoing thing, right? So the reason I bring this up is since those laws passed yesterday, they have scrubbed their online presence.
Yeah.
So
from Australian websites.
Yeah. So I'll just read this really quickly. They have moved to swiftly scrub its online presence in Australia, taking down its website and affiliated media platforms within hours of Parliament passing laws designated to outlaw extremist hate groups and curb the spread of violent ideology. And then it goes on to say that in a joint statement, the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils, which urged the government against listing them as a hate group, was also scrubbed from online. So this tells me two things. They know they're a hate group. Therefore,
they know they're inciting violence.
Exactly. So again, this is that whole like gaslighting, can't criticize, but they know they're telling you the quiet part out loud. We are a hate group. We are spreading hate. We are about radicalization, which is why we are swiftly removing ourselves from the internet, which tells me that this should have been nipped in the bud like 10 years ago.
Well, sure, but that would be interpreted as supporting this legislation.
Well, no. What I'm saying is the only reason we got to the point of needing this legislation is because it hasn't been taken seriously up until this point.
Yeah. And again, if we had have just done this at an individual level, you are making threats. You know, the preacher that was apparently radicalizing the two shooters in Bondi. I can't think of his name.
Wadim something.
Deal with him as an individual. and just say
He baited the government for years. He said, try and denaturalize me. Try and remove my citizenship.
And it should have been a case, a little bit like when Maduro said to Trump, come and get me, you coward. Like it should have been that's the result that should have happened.
And this is the point I'm making, because now we have to wait until something like Bondi happens. Then it's all of a sudden like this knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah,
this should have been done years ago.
Yeah, at an individual level.
Yeah.
In my view, you can, when someone's making threats of violence or calling for people to be killed, they have crossed a threshold where human rights are now being violated and action is warranted.
But even now with the pro-Palestinian movement, right? 2.5 years, they have had a chokehold on most CBDs around the country.
Globalise the intifada.
Right? Yep. Globalise the intifada, fuck the Jews, death to the IDF. By the way, I don't say these, just
this is what they're saying. These
are their slogans, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And literally saying that white people are Nazis. This rhetoric has been allowed for 2.5 years. Nothing was done about it. Even though the Jewish community was speaking up about it, they was calling on the government to stop these protests.
Yeah.
No one did anything. And then all of a sudden, the Globalize the Intifada came to Australian shores, and everyone's like, oh, shit.
Oh, is that what it means?
Damn.
Yeah.
Wait, we didn't, people dying now. Yes.
And again, I'm not advocating for banning of protests in support of Palestine, but you deal with the individuals who are actually crossing that threshold where they're actually quite reasonably causing other people to fear for their safety.
Well, no, I would say that you're allowing for this radicalization. You're allowing this problem to fester. It's now you've grouped in the trans people and the LGBT and all the wokies have come into this movement.
Let me challenge you back, though. If you paint with a broad brush and you just say, oh, you're not allowed to protest about that.
I didn't say you weren't allowed to protest.
Okay, but then, so you're saying you're allowed. I'm saying target the individuals who are going too far. Your response is you're still allowing it.
No, what I'm saying is for 2.5 years, like the first protest that kicked off at Sydney Opera House on the 8th of October, when after the day after
I think it was like the 9th or 10th.
Yeah,
but yes,
the day after the October 7 attack in Israel. That was and then the ABC did a puff piece. It wasn't fuck the Jews or where's the Jews or gas the Jews. It was where's the Jews, not gas the Jews. Okay.
Which is nonsense, but yes.
Whatever. That was an intimidating protest. Nothing happened. No one was arrested. No consequences whatsoever. And then what happened was it whipped everyone up into a frenzy on social media. And then we had weeks and now 2.5 years of pro-Palestine protests. And what has happened, because there was things like, where's the Jews or gas the Jews, whichever one you want to interpret it as, and then people saying like, fuck the IDF and fuck Israel and you're Zionists. Those were all hate speech. Those were all things that we know are calls to violence, right? And then all of a sudden, people started protesting with From the River to the Sea, Globalise the Intifada. Nothing was done with people holding those flags of ISIS on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Nothing was done with people marching with the Ayatollah posters. Nothing was done with people wearing the Hamas headbands. And also, I would say, is it the keffiyeh, the scarf that they all wear? That is a hate symbol for Hamas. And you can have Marine Faruqi wearing that in the Australian Parliament. That's fine. But God help us that Jacinta Price or Pauline Hanson wear the Australian flag, right? So what I'm saying is this has been weaponized and the left used it to their advantage until it came to Bondi and they went, oh, fuck. This has gone too far. We have to do something.
I would suggest that was actually the point. The point was to have a Bondi so that they could ram through the laws.
I don't want to be that cynical.
Now. No, I'm getting more cynical. But let me. And I don't necessarily want this to be what this podcast becomes about. But for you to design laws that would stop people from doing those things that wouldn't also then be an enormous violation.
I didn't say laws.
Okay.
I didn't say laws.
Okay, so what because at the moment it sounds, in the context of we're talking about the laws that just got passed, the hate speech laws, you're saying this is hate speech. What's the solution that you would propose?
The conversations that they keep shutting down. Right. So I don't think we need laws. I actually think we need less laws. But I've made this point before and I'll make this point again. People have been focusing on the NSN, Thomas Sewell, Joel Davis, all those guys.
It's those Nazis.
Those Nazis, right? The pajama party.
Yeah.
There was like 12 of them initially, right? And they said some stupid shit. And
the Lost Boys Brigade, I call them.
When people say stupid shit, you have two things that you can do. Ignore them and then they go away, or indulge them, give them the reaction they want, and then people go, oh, that looks kind of fun.
Yeah.
I want to
That's
be on that
edgy.
team. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And then and you go back. If you go back to even pre-COVID, I think, or maybe it was during COVID, they had like a little camp and they were in some cave somewhere and someone followed them and took photos. Do you remember this story? This is like 5 years ago. And it was during COVID and they were having like a brotherhood meeting and all this sort of stuff. The media whipped it up into a frenzy as if this is some kind of like secret enclave of Nazis that have been operating in Australia. And like, you know, it was like American History X here in Australian shorts. That like, I think this is 2020, 2021.
The Black Panther movement has come to Australia.
And it was actually,
Black Panthers.
And I'm not minimizing it. I don't agree with these guys. But what I'm saying is it was like 12 or so like teenage dudes or like young dudes being dickheads. Yeah. I think we've all met those guys before. Dickheads doing dickhead shit, right?
It's basically a fraternity, a US fraternity.
100%.
Yeah.
And like, if you left them alone, they would either like some of them are too far gone, but most of them would have got bored.
Yeah.
Most of them would have grown out of it.
Up. Yeah.
But you made them infamous.
Yeah.
You made them notorious.
Yep.
And there's nothing those people love more than feeling like they're pushing buttons, right? That's the rebellion that you see in most young men. So that's that thing, right? So you whip that into a frenzy. And then on the other side, you had all of the people who were doing the pro-Palestine stuff.
Sure.
We weren't allowed to question it.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to say anything. And remember the chick from ABC, what's her name? That got fined by ABC and then just won a defamation case. Antoinette do you know who I'm talking about? No. Antoinette. She just won. Antoinette Lattouf. Australian journalist.
Right.
She got fined from the ABC for making comments around Palestine and the Jews. And so that got whipped into a frenzy and they're like, you're trying to silence Palestinian voices. Right. Another example, just last weekend you had in South Australia the writers thing,
festival.
Right?
Yes.
And the premiere
Boy, has that been a schmozzle.
And this is my point. I promise you I'll get to my point in a second. So the premier...
It's all right. We've got another hour and a half. It's fine.
Who's the Labour... He's a Labour premier.
Malinauskas.
Yeah. He wrote a letter to the board of this Writers' Festival saying, disinvite this woman. She has said hateful things about the Jews. She has she was part of the doxing of the Jews in the WhatsApp group and listed all of these things. And then... I believe, rightfully, and she also gets almost $1 million in government funding, this woman.
Yeah, right.
Right? Then, and I'm going to be called a Zionist shill for this, but I'm trying to paint a bigger picture. Stop thinking about Zionists, Palestine, Jews, Israel. Think of what is happening. Think the macro, right? Zoom out. So if you're not allowed to criticize these people, because if you do, like Antoinette and this other chick, I can't remember her name, and then it gets weaponized and whipped into a frenzy. Like, you're trying to silence Palestinians, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But she's literally done the thing that we don't want people to do, saying the thing out loud.
Yeah.
Fuck the Jews, fuck Zionists, they're all terrorists, globalize the Intifada, river to the sea. You're not allowed to say that. And when they do and they bend the knee to the mob, you are essentially saying that, okay, one side is allowed to talk about it, but God help us, the Nazis can't.
Yeah.
I don't agree with either, by the way.
Yeah.
But I would argue this. The more you push this stuff to the fringe, the more you silence it, the more you censor it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, 100%. If your proposed solution is to actually let the free market of ideas sort it out, then I'm in agreement.
And that would be my thing. And my thing is like, okay, so these bad ideas around Palestine, if you had to let the Jews say, this is ridiculous, you can't say from the river to the sea, and let people say that, and people would go, But no, the media was complicit in this. The media silenced those voices. The media wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
And same with Labor.
And it's a thing of, once someone is actually making a threat, they have crossed a threshold. I did a video on this. You can simultaneously be a free speech absolutist and recognize that there are other human rights as well. So free speech is a human right. Freedom of movement is a human right. Freedom of association is a human right. There's multiple human rights.
But sorry to interrupt, but with free speech doesn't mean free of consequences. And if you say something stupid to me and I punch you in the face...
Sure, but from a legal point of view, what we're talking about is the threshold where the law can get involved. All right, I don't believe that the law should ever be involved until someone's rights have been violated. Mm-hmm. That is the only point at which the law should ever be involved in anything. But if you threaten somebody and legitimately it is reasonable for them to go, hold on a second, I might be in danger here. I might have to change my behavior. I'm going to stop going out at night. I'm going to stop going out on my own. I'm going to pay more attention to my surroundings because I could be jumped at any time. If you're making threats that cause someone to anticipate actual physical harm, then you have violated their right to essentially to peaceful living. The analogy I'll give you is this, and I did a video on this, so apologies to those that saw the video, but it's worth diving into since we're talking about it. You have the right to freedom of movement. You don't have the right to jump out in front of someone's car. Right? Those are two different things. You have the right to walk across that road if no one else is using it at that point in time, but you can't jump out in front of someone's car and make them swerve. And even if you do, and you're like, yeah, and they swerve, and then you jump out of the way, right? So they didn't actually have to swerve. They wouldn't have hit you. You jump out of the way at the last second. They hit the gutter and break an axle, bend an axle, and they say you have to pay for that. No, I jumped out of the way. You didn't have to swerve, right? That's a bit like someone making someone fear for their safety and then being like, oh, but I wasn't going to follow through on it. I wasn't going to actually kill you. I just wanted to say I was going to kill you, right? And so you've violated that person's rights. Now we can see that clearly on the road with freedom of movement. You have the right to use that space until it affects someone else's use of that space, at which point we have to start to balance your rights against each other. You have the right to speak. They have the right to peaceful existence. And if you are making, and the threshold needs to be pretty high. We can't be like, oh, fuck this. Oh, no, he threatened me. No. The threshold has to be quite high. But there does come a point where if I'm making threats that legitimately cause fear in somebody else, that's like using my freedom of movement to jump out in front of their car. I'm forcing them to swerve.
Okay.
I'm forcing them to react.
I agree with you. So let's go back to those protests.
Yeah.
You have a human right to protest.
Yep.
We agree on that.
Yep.
But 2.5 years of disruption to the CBDs and also making Jewish people feel unsafe in the CBD.
So that's where you do need to deal with the people that are actually the ones, and in any given group of people. We saw this even during the anti-lockdown protests where I was a part of those protests, but we had some idiots amongst us as well. You have to isolate and deal with the individuals. Again, it always comes down to individuals and individual rights. The individuals that are actually creating an atmosphere where, Jewish people don't feel that they could walk past such a protest.
What about all of the CBD businesses who have had disruption to their weekend trade and how it's infected tourism in our CBD? What about their rights?
So this is where you get to a really tricky area. The tragedy of the commons, common space, I don't believe that public space should exist as it exists in current form. Public space, as we understand it in Western democracies now, essentially comes out of the king's space, crown land. We still call it crown land. And the idea was that the king owned it and managed it, and at various times in history has said, well, everything in it belongs to me. I own all the deer. You're not allowed to go hunting in the king's forest for deer. And of course, we get the fable, based partly on truth, but the fable of Robin Hood and all of that out of those sorts of eras. But we live in a world where we have this idea that we all now hold this space in common because we own the government now, at least on paper. And so therefore, whatever the government owns, we all own and we all get to use. The question is who gets to use it and how. And I had this discussion with a lawyer during all the lockdown protests. And she was actually running a court case. She was actually helping to defend the Palestine protests in court because some of the organisers were copying some of what I was copying, and I ended up having a conversation with her, and she was defending them, right? So it doesn't matter whether she agreed with them or not. She was defending them. They'd been disruptive, deliberately blocking intersections and doing a bit more of that rat-baggy sort of stuff that I don't believe is appropriate. If you read my books, you'll see that there's protest and there's not protest, and you can't take not protest and call it protest and get away with it. You've got to keep those two things separate. And so she was trying to make the argument, well, it's protected by protest. And I said, well, they're on public land, which by definition is for public use. It's paid for by members of the public. Now, if you have 10,000 people walking down a street, you're going to block a street. But that's 10,000 members of the public using their public land. If you have 5 people blocking an intersection and there's 10,000 cars wanting to get through, well, that's an inappropriate use of public land because the public land owners and payers of that price are the ones who are being inconvenienced by a small number of people. This is public land for public use. And she kind of made the snide remark of, well, I'm glad you're not the barrister on the other side, So obviously conceding that point made to a judge would be reasonably compelling. So then you get to the problem. Okay, you have these shops. They need foot traffic. They need customers. But they they front onto public space. That's all of their access is through public space. Who gets to decide that 10,000 members of the public who want to be ratbags and march up and down every single weekend can't do that? I don't think, for as long as we have this model of public space, I don't think that there's a clear answer to that question.
Yeah, no, you make a really good point. I think my frustration around this centers around the double standard. Up until Bondi, it was acceptable that should you be saying, and like these aren't, to be clear, these Palestine protests aren't peaceful.
No,
they're not.
no.
They're designed to be disruptive. They're out there to make maximum impact. They're quite hostile. They're quite aggressive. And
if you don't believe that comment that these aren't peaceful, just ask yourself whether a Jewish person could walk past that protest wearing the gear, being identifiably Jewish, and whether they would be safe to do so. The answer is obviously not.
Obviously not, but even regular bystanders, they're getting caught up in it because these people are getting whipped up into a frenzy. I'm going to just contrast over to what's going on in the States in a second, just to sort of explain what I'm saying here. If you go and look at like what's happening in Minneapolis, have you been watching all the videos coming out of this?
Yeah.
We'll talk about this in a separate segment, but Don Lemon, right, did the protest, was with the protest that went into the church. These people, the ICE protesters, have, because these bad ideas have been unchallenged and have been allowed to fester over years. This is not a new thing. This has been built up through the Biden era. And obviously Australia has inherited a lot of this as well. And I'm saying wokeness collectively because it explains it. But these woke ideas were unchallenged for so long. These people are so down their rabbit hole.
Yeah.
They are so starved for oxygen and clear air that they truly do believe that ICE are the Gestapo.
Yeah.
So here in Australia, because the pro-Palestine movement has gone so unchallenged and been allowed to grow to the capacity that it does, that we were allowed to, and I'm going to bring it up again just to really drive this point home. Here we go. It's in my bloody memory now. I keep posting this picture. But I'm going to show this. Where is it? I need the photo I want. Just entertain people for a second, would you?
It even changed the picture to look at me while I'm singing my my little vaudeville musical.
Oh God, why
item.
can't I bloody find it? Maybe they've been scrubbed for the internet. Anyway, the protest on the Sydney Harbour
the
Bridge.
Ayatollah picture.
The Ayatollah picture and also the ISIS flags. Because people keep focusing on the Khamenei one.
Yeah.
It was the
ISIS, they climbed up the scaffolding, they had ISIS flags hanging out.
And he was a known ISIS supporter, this guy. Like he had been charged with this before.
Yeah.
This was only allowed to happen because for 2.5 years it went unchallenged. And then they took this to the High Court and they were allowed to go onto the bridge and the government gave them permission.
Yep.
And then we saw that and nothing happened.
Yep.
Nothing happened. And they're all saying globalize the Intifada, fuck the Jews, death to the IDF. They're wearing Hamas headbands. They're waving the flag of ISIS. They're holding the posters of Khamenei. Nothing happened. So we can't challenge their ideas because that would be impacting their freedom. But we're doubling down on the NSN. It's a double standard.
Yeah.
I don't agree with either of them.
No, and look, I agree with the point that you're making. I just think people could have interpreted what you were saying earlier as agreement with the laws that have been passed.
Sorry,
So
I'm not necessarily
I wanted you to flesh.
articulating.
That's why I kind of pressed, was to get you to flesh out what you were saying a bit more. Now, I've only gone one layer deep into the implications of what happened yesterday in Parliament.
Can you continue telling everyone? Because my bladder's actually not holding up.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why.
We're an hour and 40 minutes in.
I know. I'm weak
Far
today.
out. Oh,
Tell
gosh.
everyone this bit. I'm listening.
All right. So I want to go one layer deeper because there's the law that was passed itself, and you know, we're going to talk a lot more about that in time to come, and we'll see how that plays out. Just walk across the camera. She's crawling on the floor to avoid being seen crossing my camera. But actually, that's only one of three serious problems with what happened yesterday. The second one is the process itself. One of the great dangers of a democracy is that it just becomes a dictatorship of the majority. And the whole idea of a constitution, the whole idea of processes, checks and balances is actually to slow the political process down, to put roadblocks in the way of the politicians, and to put things like human rights, enshrine human rights at a level in the constitution, ideally, where politicians can't change them. That has to go back to the people in order to be changed. And interestingly, the entire history of politics, the history of constitutional monarchies, republics, Westminster system democracies, and a whole, bills of rights are another expression of this. We have been trying to find a way to stop the government from abusing its power. That's literally political history, is the governed trying to figure out how to stop the government from abusing its power. And so we have a system for a reason. And that system has rules that are written in the Constitution, but it also has conventions and the way that things are normally done in order to be done with good order and with due respect and with proper consideration and checks and balances being allowed to operate. The problem with yesterday is not that they broke the Constitution technically. As far as I'm aware, they complied with all the technical requirements for passing legislation, as far as I'm aware. But they abused the system and they broke every convention of decency, essentially removing any pretense of caring about what we think.
Yeah.
Any pretense of consultation with legal experts, with human rights people, with any of that. And they have now enacted an elected dictatorship.
Yes.
Now, this is, people go, oh, you can't have an elected dictatorship. Yes, you can. If they can behave like a dictator during their term, every 3 years we get to pick a new dictator. Yay. That's not how this is meant to function.
It's one of those things, technically you can do it, but common decency would say you didn't. We saw that in 2021 with the Kill the Bill protest, right?
Yes.
They had an omnibus bill, which in that had some of the most horrendous legislation that you could be basically thrown into prison for 5 years.
I think it was 2, but I mean, either way,
2 5 years, what's the difference? And, rightfully, so many people were absolutely outraged, but they gave you less than, like 24 hours consultation?
It was, very, very short. And they don't care. They don't read them. And we see this so clearly with this bill. So let's just go through, I won't get the dates exactly right, but essentially about a week ago, just over a week ago, he put forward the omnibus bill. They opened it up for comment. I think we had 2 days to write a comment. So you had to read 500 pages, 140 odd pages of legislation and 350 odd pages of explanatory notes, 500 pages in all. You had to read, comprehend, understand the implications of, and then write a response within sort of 48 hours. You put in that response. The website, I've got a video coming out on this shortly, the government's own website for responses to this particular bill actually says an extraordinarily high volume of traffic. We apologise, it's going to take us time to publish them. Extraordinarily high volume of traffic. Well, what's the point of publishing them now? The bill's already been rammed through. And the politicians who voted on that bill have not had the chance to read, let alone respond to or take into account any of the feedback that might have been contained in what is reported to be 7,000. I don't know how they got that number because I went looking for a source of the number. The government haven't published, to my knowledge. The government haven't authoritatively published how many submissions there were. But the rumor is that it was 7,000 submissions. We know it was in the many hundreds because that's what they've published so far, with more coming out all the time, and they'll be coming out for a month. So we know that the people's opinion doesn't matter. And what they've done is they've turned government into a farce. They're saying we will hold the appearance of due process. We will adhere to the appearance of a functioning democracy, but you're not actually going to have any influence on the outcome.
But we saw this during Biden's presidency, that there was a weaponization of those kind of systems to, obviously they went after Donald Trump, but just to basically curb any possible opposition. They made it almost impossible. We're seeing that here. Would you say, I'm just spitballing here, would you say that our privilege as Westerners has gotten us to this point where the only way we can do things now is it has to be so polarizing and so ridiculous because we have been so unchallenged and sort of coasted for so long that when something like this happens, like it's a natural inclination to push it this far?
So you made the comment earlier about the response of your friend, it can't be that bad, it'll get swatted down, etc. Call to mind, I'm sure we've all seen documentaries or even news reports where some horrific crime has been committed in some otherwise peaceful place, some suburb, some town, and they interview the neighbour, I just can't believe it could happen here. I just wouldn't have thought that blah, blah, blah. Now, that attitude has shifted recently in Victoria. Victorians are much more aware that it can happen wherever they are. But for all of my childhood and into the 2010s, that was the default. I just wouldn't have thought that such a thing would happen here. That's exactly what I heard from Venezuelans. right? The ones who actually understood what had happened to them. They're like, it's, you know, you read it, they'd talk about North Korea, they'd talk about other places, you know, falling into communism. Yeah. I just was unbelievable to see it happening here, and I couldn't why can't anybody else see it? And I'm warning them, and they're calling me crazy, and then it happens in front of our eyes, and they tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
All the things that we're experiencing now, they described as a part of their descent into madness. Unfortunately, we have had it too good for too long. We think that that's our birthright. We actually have this arrogance to believe that we will get a different result even though we're doing the same thing, even though we're making the same mistakes. And history is going to kick us in the ass for that.
Well, I think so, because that was going to be my point. Like, you have to be in such a truly privileged position to get to this point where we can literally be enacting 1984 kind of legislation and think this is a good thing. Because, you know, I mean, Australians are so spoilt. They're so spoilt. They don't, apart from the ones who have immigrated here from those countries, they truly don't believe that we could be susceptible to the same kind of terrible ideas.
Can't happen here. Yep. We're above that. We're better than that. We wouldn't be that stupid. Yeah, we are.
We're more educated. We're more, we're more evolved than our ancestors.
Let me finish the second layer, and then in due course we'll buckle up and go to the third layer, because that's where shit gets real. So the end of the second layer is we've got a situation where due process is dead. Even the efforts to appear like this is a functioning democracy have now been abandoned.
Yeah.
We will still have elections, although that's where level 3 gets pretty hairy. Elections will still happen. Elections happen in China. Elections happen in Russia.
Yeah.
Elections happen in Venezuela. We will still have elections.
They're just someone's got their finger on the scale.
Well, a couple of things there. At the end of layer 2 is to say there is now no question that the Liberal and Labor Party are two wings of the same bird.
Yeah.
No one in their right mind. The Liberal Party are functioning as the right wing of the Labor Party. They are a faction within the Labor Party, and they are now genuinely operating as such, supporting legislation that is absolutely awful in order to suck up. I mean, Susan Lee has no spine. She has no capacity for a fight. She has no capacity for political maneuvering, for anticipating the play of her opponent so that she can counter it preemptively, so that it just never works. She has fallen prey. This whole omnibus, split it up, divide and conquer approach by elbow is politics 101. This isn't sophisticated stuff. And she fell for it hook, line and sinker. And she's ended up trying to come out claiming a victory. There's been significant modifications to the bill thanks to us, and we made it a stronger and better bill. Bullshit. Albo got everything he wanted, and Susan Lee has absolutely betrayed her base. But she's actually taken a few of the other Liberals with her. So Andrew Hastie is one of the people that I've been watching going, maybe, let's hope, all right? Now, to be fair, and this is not a good thing, he supported the hate speech bill last year, right? So he's got form on this. He supported it again this time. As far as I'm aware, Senator Jacinta Price abstained in the Senate.
I'm just going to play Hastie's video.
Yeah. This is pretty disappointing.
So he put this up on his Instagram.
The Combating Anti-Semitism, Hate and Extremism Bill 2026. I'll be voting no to this bill. I'll be voting against it for two main reasons.
This is early.
The first is this bill is an attack on our basic democratic freedoms. Freedom of conscience, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion.
A few moments later.
Yes. Yeah, he voted for it. Now, he did actually put up a video explaining why he was voting for it, but basically there was nothing that would meaningfully alter your view. If you viewed the first version as negatively as what he said, then you should view the second version as negatively as what he said.
Well, this is the thing, and they don't actually believe anything. This is just performance. None of this means anything. Like, what they say to you is not the truth. And people keep thinking, if a politician's speaking to you directly, they're telling you how they feel. No. It's all bullshit. It's all backroom deals. And the other layer of this, I'm sure you're going to say this in a second anyway, is that, okay, we vote for Albanese. Sure, okay. But what about all the bureaucrats that are entrenched?
That's right. The fourth branch of government.
Yeah.
Look, that's too big of a topic to touch on today. But the end of the second layer is the Liberal Party, in my view, are now irredeemable. I agree. I still had the thought that a change in leadership, and probably an Andrew Hastie, although there's another dude who's again, he's patchwork. He's good on some stuff, not on others. I now believe the Liberal Party are irredeemable. I don't believe that they have within their ranks anyone in the lower house who has a shot at leadership. So they've got a couple of decent people, but people with a shot at leadership who actually have both the courage and the credibility, right? Because they can come out saying all the right things now, but we just point out all the hypocrisy, all of the things they've done previously. So that has both the courage and the credibility to be able to lead the Liberal Party out of the wilderness that they're in. So Labor and Liberal are now two wings of the same bird. We are genuinely in a uni-party state now. That was already obvious, but it's now undeniable.
Reading the comments on socials around this, I think it was the Australian Federal, Financial Review. Hang on, let me pull it up. So, again, I think their comments are important. So, is it AFR? Is that what it is?
Australian Financial Review.
Yeah. There it is. So they posted something, and the comments were saying that, yes, Australia is moving more left. Like it's about time, something. No, that's the wrong one.
That does not look like the Australian Financial Review.
No, I think it's just Financial Review, is it? Review. I need a Jamie. Here we go.
We do. Hey, Jamie, you looking for a job in Australia?
All right. So
trust me, you won't like it here.
So this was the piece they posted. The centre-right is going extinct as a political species.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the Financial Review is a lefty bloody thing
lefty
anyway.
rag, yep.
Anyway, they're saying Susan Lay's approval has taken a nosedive.
Yeah.
We know this.
Yeah.
Then they were talking about rogue result as it may be. News poll putting Pauline Hanson's One Nation ahead of the coalition. Primary vote 22-21 grabbed headlines. Resolve still puts the coalition well ahead of Hanson's outfit on primaries, but at 18%, it's finding it's still 3 times One Nation's actual primary vote from last May. And so it says that Hanson's surge confirms that post-election polling trends, One Nation is cannibalising the coalition's vote, and angry and frustrated Liberal and National supporters park with Hanson and Nationals defector Barnaby Joyce. What they refuse to acknowledge is that One Nation are actually taking a whole bunch of Labor supporters too.
Yeah, correct.
Massive contingent. They won't admit that though, of course not. Anyway, so this is just talking about that. But if you read the comments, it says here, the pendulum has swung. We are all moving left because everyone realizes that fascism is evil, all sorts of stuff. And they're talking about how, reading these comments, people are like, it's about time. Everyone agrees that Labor are the best people. And these are sycophants, right?
Yeah.
But right now, no one is looking, and the reason I say this is no one is looking at this and going, oh, wait, we could be the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, I had an interesting, I read a comment by Carlz Samaras, who he runs Redbridge Polling. He can be a very insightful commentator, but my response, I retweeted what he'd said and I replied to it. I said, Carlz is very insightful when it comes to left-wing politics, and he knows next to nothing when it comes to right-wing politics. Because he wants to break it down into this kind of extreme right, moderate right kind of framework, similar to what they were expressing there in that post that you just had on the screen. And that's not how this works. The reality is the people who are now choosing to vote for Pauline Hanson have not moved right.
No.
They're recognising that the Liberal Party moved left,
yes.
and they're still standing where they were. That's actually why a lot of Labor people are now going across to One Nation. They find Liberal unpalatable because they grew up in a household where Liberal were the enemy. They're like, I'd be betraying my dad if I ever voted Liberal. But now that the Liberal have gone even to the left of where they were as kids and where their dad was, One Nation is taking that, filling up that void, and they're like, well, I could vote for One Nation because One Nation actually stands up more for jobs and for blue-collar workers and for cost of living and for Australian values and for Australia than what the Liberal or Labor parties do. So we're watching this shift, but the shift isn't the people moving left. The shift is the political parties moving left, and what they're calling the extreme right. Yeah, it's exactly this.
Yeah, it's this. So I just thought I'd pull it up. It's a really good illustration.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about this, I think, because they don't want to acknowledge it. The left have moved so far left that anyone that's just in the centre is now like, hang on a minute, what do you mean? I'm not right wing.
Yeah. They've tried to redefine where the centre is, and they're putting it where the left used to be.
Yeah.
And increasingly people aren't buying it.
And so if you look at 2021, for those who are watching, if you're listening to the podcast, the bottom line 2021 is showing that, the far left spectrum has moved so far to the left that the centre has shifted along, and the person who was centre left is now on the centre right.
Yeah.
This is what Carlz Samaras refuses to acknowledge. There are people who are so moderate, who I would say are fairly grounded in common sense, who still understand that we need to support people who can't contribute as much as us. You're a traditional Bob Hawke supporting lefty,
Yep.
is now looking at the left and also looking at the Liberal Party going, what on earth? I don't support this.
This can't be what my choice is. This isn't a choice. So last point on layer 2. The Nationals stood their ground, to their credit. They abstained in the lower house. There was no point in them voting no because it wasn't going to change anything anyway. And all 4 of the National senators. Now, just log this for a second. The Nationals only have 4 senators. People think because they're attached to the Liberal Party, like, oh, they're one of the majors. No. One Nation also have 4 senators, right? One Nation have already equaled the Nationals in the Senate.
Yeah.
But to their credit, all 4 National senators voted against the bill in the Senate. Now, this is quite significant because 3 out of those 4 have cabinet or shadow cabinet positions. So the way the coalition works, the leader of the Liberal Party gets to be the leader of the coalition and therefore the Prime Minister should they win. The leader of the Nationals gets to be the Deputy Prime Minister should they win. And then they share a bunch of cabinet positions. So frontbench portfolios get spread across both parties. However, the way discipline works within the Liberal National Party, they allow you to cross the floor and to disobey the party view on a given topic, which is more than can be said for the Labor Party. They have absolute discipline. They expect you to vote with them every single time. The coalition will allow you to cross the floor, but not if you're a frontbencher, not if you have a portfolio, you're a minister. So you have to resign out of the ministry and go onto the backbench in order to do that. Now, that's exactly what Canavan did. It's exactly what Hastie did, by the way, and then still chose to vote with his party. However, 3 out of those 4 national senators are current frontbenchers within the shadow cabinet. So they hold portfolios, they hold ministry positions within the LNP. Now, they're not in government, so they're not actual ministers, but they would be those ministers should there be an election and should they win. Now, this is a test for Susan Lay's leadership, and she needs to be really careful here.
Yeah.
Because discipline would say she has to strip all 3 of them of their portfolios.
Yeah.
If she does that, what she's doing is she's actually creating a divide between the Nationals and the Liberal Party at exactly the moment when the Liberals need the Nationals protecting their flank from One Nation.
Yeah.
The worst thing the Liberals are being eaten alive, as it is. But it's mostly the Nationals who are taking the damage, at least in the short term, because the One Nation is gaining a lot of ground in seats that are in lower house seats that are dominated by the Nationals more so than by the Liberals. And, having David Littleproud, I've got very little good to say about David Littleproud, but I will say he's actually been decent on this particular issue. He came out strongly in defence of guns in a way that Susan Lay wasn't willing to do.
Yeah.
Right? She was pretty quiet on that front. And so that helps to defend the entire coalition against One Nation.
Yeah.
They are her ablative coat, the armour that gets destroyed as it protects you. And she doesn't care that they get destroyed, but she needs them there. If she turns around and enforces discipline and kicks those 3 senators out of their front bench positions, what she's actually saying is we're no longer really a partnership anymore, because the whole idea was we share those positions. And she's at risk of actually pushing the Nationals away at a very, very crucial time. Now, I don't think the Nationals would form a coalition with One Nation. There's too much bad blood there.
Well, it's funny you say that.
Yes.
Look at the front page of The Australian today.
Yeah, well, yes. So Joyce would say that, of course. Yes. So for those that are listening, Rebel Nationals welcome to join One Nation group, says Joyce as Lay weighs their fate. This is a critical decision for Susan Lay.
This is really interesting. I haven't read this article, but just given that we were just about talking about it, this is rolling coverage, right? So I just talked about how that terrorist group has taken their website down.
Yeah.
So what's it been, like less than 24 hours since these things
passed the Senate at 10 o'clock
Things
last
are moving.
night.
Things are moving quickly. So Albanese has denied trying to shift the blame to the Morrison government. We haven't even talked about that. But he has blamed anti-Semitism on the Morrison government not taking any action.
Right.
So typical, look, I will say this. People like Albanese, Kevin Rudd, to a degree, Morrison, Biden, Harris, when they shift the blame back to the opposition, it fills me with so much rage.
Or back to the previous party. It's like, hang on, you've now been in government for a full term plus a little bit. You've been in government for 3.5 years.
I know this is politics. I get this is politics, but it's just so fucking juvenile.
Yeah.
I'll just blame the other. But it was your fault.
Point scoring.
Like,
He
it,
started it.
Yeah. Boil this down. these are grown-ass fucking adults.
No, they're not. Don't
behaving
insult
no,
adults like
but do you know
that.
what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
They're all in their like late 50s and 60s, and they act like they're in a sandpit. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It makes it so intolerable, and this is why I hate politics. I only care about it because, you know, it's like the rest, the fate of the free world.
If they would leave me alone, I would gladly leave them alone.
Fucking oath,
I would
like,
gladly spend my
it's
life doing much more
insulting.
enjoyable things.
It is so insulting watching the way they behave, and they're all persnickety, and they're just trading barbs. You know, these are the people that we're meant to look up to as leaders.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to go on, obviously these 3 senators, you know, she's now got to make this decision whether she keeps them or she doesn't. I hope she kicks them out. I hope she does.
I hope so too. Now, can I just say, so the two on the one in the middle and the one on the right, I actually don't know a lot about. Bridget McKenzie on the left, I've had a couple of goes at her over the years. I felt that she was way too soft on the water issues. This is one of my big beefs with the Nationals. With the Nationals. However, she's been better on water than many, but I'm pretty hardline on that issue. That's an issue very close to my heart. And I will say that that recently on water, she's actually been good as well. But I know from history with David Littleproud specifically that they can say one thing and do another. So I'm still a bit iffy on that. But Bridget has been really good on all this stuff more recently. So her stock is rising in my view.
I would also say too, and it's hard, but this is something that I think those of us on the centre and the centre right need to get through our heads, because we are also emotional. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of people going, I'll never forgive, I'll never forget. I'm like, I understand that sentiment. I'll give an example. Jackie Falgate. I have a really hard time liking her because of the way she behaved during COVID. But to her credit, how hard she's going after Jacinta Allen, how hard she's going on this youth crime, I'm like, you're earning your stripes back, as far as I say. And, you know, you got to extend that olive branch to these people. We're on the wrong side initially, but when we've got larger stakes at play, you know, we've got to acknowledge that maybe they're starting to go, shit, okay, we've overplayed our hand, let's come back.
We also have to recognise which fights are on right now and which ones are not. Yeah. And just, you know, to hold COVID against somebody, okay, fair enough, in terms of remembering who they are and so forth, fine. But the COVID fight is not the fight that we're in right now.
No.
The free speech fight is the fight that we're in, or the water policy fight is the fight, or the gun fight is, you know, pick whichever one. Find your allies for that fight. Yeah. And work with people, even if you are simultaneously working against them in a different fight.
But you know who doesn't do this? The left.
Well,
they're all in.
I would argue that in some respects the left actually enforce internal discipline better than the right do. The right allow more freedom of expression and more differences of opinion. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthy thing. But
that's how it should be.
That's how it should be. But we cannot be sitting here saying we won't allow anyone to change, or we won't even allow them to be good on this issue. Yeah. Because they were bad on that issue. I will never allow them to be good on any issue.
Yeah. And this is something I see often in our comments on the Oddcast and so on. Oh, no, I disagree with you. No, you've lost me on this, Topher. Yeah. And every time I see that, oh, you've lost me. You know, I was a big supporter of yours. Yeah. I'm like, you are exactly like the people we're up against.
Yeah, that's right.
You need to understand that we're not always going to agree. It's normal. It's healthy. But...
All right.
Yeah.
So the future of the coalition hangs in the balance. And that brings us to the third layer.
Can we have a quick palate cleanse?
Yeah, please. Because this is about to... I try so hard not to be black pill and not to be super conspiratorial. What you're about to hear from me is probably the most black pill conspiratorial you will ever hear from me, I suspect. So let's have a palate cleanse first.
All right. I've got a few. I just want to play something that's fairly... No, I'm not even going to... I'm just going to go into it. Have you seen this?
No, I have no idea.
I want you to meet the 23-year-old health ambassador for the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. A person who is from an ethnic minority background, you know, some communities it's actually taboo to, and you know, it's quite a sensitive topic to talk about. So if you're not being able to learn about these things through the medium of school, then where do you learn? You know, and I wish when I was in school we were, you know, they teach us in Welsh back about, you know, how to apply for a bank account and how to, you know, get a job. But what about things like how to check if, you know, do a breast exam? How do I know if, you know, signs of cervical cancer, screenings, when am I supposed to get those? You know, the things that are going to prolong my life, you know. So why don't we teach these things before we teach, you know, how to get a job? Because if I'm not living long enough, how am I going to get a job?
Yeah, because having an income doesn't extend your life expectancy at all. You know, there's no correlation between wealth and life expectancy and health outcomes.
I have so many things to say.
Please do.
But with our new laws, I need to be careful. So firstly, for those who aren't watching, this woman is morbidly obese and she's 23.
That's fair. Yeah.
She is so morbidly obese that her cheeks and her chin are actually encroaching on her lips.
She looks
She is that big in the face.
She looks exactly like you would imagine a cartoonist who is drawing a caricature of a morbidly obese face from someone who's from the subcontinent or somewhere.
And she is a health ambassador. This is the gaslighting that I just have. Sorry, I'm going to cough. I have no time for.
Okay, this isn't new. Have you seen photos of some of the health?
Yeah.
Yes. Do I need to pull out pictures or have you got some there?
I think they're in the thread.
Where are we? Yeah, Michelin. People are putting up the Michelin Man. You know, you've got health ambassadors for the EU and for Germany and so forth who are, I'm sorry, they're whales.
Yeah, they are. Like, they're huge and they're disgusting.
Like we're not even talking like 95th percentile huge. We're talking 99th percentile huge. And you just sit there and go, this is who we're taking our advice from. Like, give me, for all his flaws, give me RFK Jr. He can do a chin-up, he can do a push-up, he can run.
This one was the worst one. This is the Belgian one.
Oh, yes.
She's the health minister in Belgium, sorry. And then you have this guy in Canada, in Quebec.
Yeah.
They're just taking look at this woman. She can barely move.
So when they have their annual conventions, they have to keep these ministers away from the Japanese delegation in case they do some whaling.
She's the health minister in California, I think, or she does something for health in California. Like, they're just taking the piss. But I want to go back to that chick. Have I hidden her now? Where is it? God, too many tabs. Look at me go. So looking at this woman, right, aside from, I think she's got a point talking about, women should know how to look at their breasts for breast cancer and cervical cancer. But she's like, that's more important than teaching a 13-year-old how to get a job.
Yeah.
You know what else is important? Exercise, movement. Why?
How's that food pyramid working out for you? Pretty sure they do teach that.
And how does someone like that get elevated to a position of health?
DEI.
Correct. Thank you.
DEI. Simple as that.
And this is the fight. So, we could sit here and die on this hill about she's the wrong person to be a health advocate. But this all comes down to that macro of this is 1984 in the sense of it's newspeak, it's doublespeak, and it's also just gaslighting you. What you see is not the reality.
Don't believe the evidence of your eyes. Believe what we're telling you.
And this is why we have people who hate Trump so much because what he's actually doing, I'm convinced the woke mind virus is actually some kind of spell on your average person. And what Trump's doing, whether you like him or don't like him, he's trying to break that spell and people refuse.
Yeah.
And this is the same as people who are trying to be unbrainwashed from a cult. They can't see it.
Yep.
And I've had a video. We'll go back to your third thing in a second. Where is he?
It's all right. Take your time. I don't really want to talk about it. It gets
dark. I thought this was a really good explanation about how women have been radicalized. I did save it. My God. Here we go. All right. And then I have one more good palate cleanse.
He wasn't being misogynistic.
Sorry.
George Orwell once wrote, "Women are always and inevitably on the side of the state." He wasn't being misogynistic, he was making a psychological observation. In his view, women, particularly in their role as caregivers and moral enforcers, tend to prioritize safety and compassion over risk and freedom. And that instinct, while natural, is easily weaponized by totalitarian systems.
Yep.
When conformity is marketed as compassion and control is rebranded as care, the state taps into the feminine psyche to enforce ideological obedience. Now consider this. Men will do almost anything to attract a mate, so when the state captures women through propaganda, redefining tyranny as empathy and compliance as virtue, men follow, especially those who can't compete in the traditional dating market. They feminize themselves and trade strength for submission. This is what evolutionary biologists call the sneaky strategy, low-status males mimicking feminine traits or moral positions in hopes of reproductive access. And while all of this unfolds, families disintegrate. Single motherhood, a top predictor of poverty and social dysfunction, becomes the norm. Children from single-parent homes are far less likely to climb the economic ladder, and who steps in as provider and protector? Not the father, the state. But here's the kicker. The state is funded disproportionately by men. So rather than supporting the women they married and raised children with directly, men subsidize the state, which in turn provides for women through social programs. Why? Because women have been propagandized to see every relationship as a power dynamic, except one with the state, which is ironically the centralization of raw power. They've been told that to rely on a man is weakness, but to rely on a bureaucracy is empowerment. This is not progress. This is dependency with a new face. And both men and women are suffering. The childless middle-aged woman and the incel are two sides of the same broken culture. A woman without her own child often directs her maternal instinct towards abstract causes, infantilizing minorities under the guise of social justice. What we are witnessing from psychologically unwell men and women is Nietzsche's concept of resentiment, envy dressed up as morality. The strong became evil, the weak became good, strength became tyranny. We now live in a pathologically soft society that sides even with those who harm it, where punishing crime feels unfair and victimhood is the highest virtue. Nietzsche called them the tarantulas, those who preach justice but act from bitterness. They don't want to uplift the weak, they want to drag down the strong. Orwell saw them too. Quote, most middle-aged socialists, while theoretically pining for a classless society, cling like glue to their miserable fragments of social prestige. These bitter, well-educated, and affluent types don't actually care about the downtrodden, they weaponize them. The real target is success, competence, independence, because those qualities expose their own inadequacies. But the answer to pathological femininity isn't pathological masculinity. It's not swinging the pendulum too far in the other direction. The answer is balance. Masculinity and femininity are not enemies, they're symbiotic. We've simply overcorrected. We escaped a world where masculinity once tyrannized femininity, only to arrive in a world where femininity is tyrannizing masculinity. We are not oppressed by patriarchy, we are being suffocated by pathological softness, envy, and resentment. And unless we recognize this imbalance, the future will not be free. It will be emotionally manipulated, morally confused, and biologically unsustainable. George Orwell...
Women. Can't live with them, not allowed to kill them. It's just, you're just really caught in between a rock and a hard place, you know?
As I said last week, it's getting really hard to defend my team. But, you know, on this, okay, this is something, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into some female psyche here. Because
I thought my segment was going to get dark. This is going to get weird.
Because I often see this in our comments. How do I find a Carlz, right? Like, because I know this. Like, people forget I was single for 12 years. I found dating really hard because I was facing men who were more feminine than me. I am a bit of a tomboy, right? So I'm going to play you a clip from a Mamma Mia podcast. Now, Mia Friedman, interestingly, recently followed me. She's an interesting person, and I would love to sit down with Mia because when I was a adolescent, Mia was, I think, first the editor of Dolly magazine and then Cosmopolitan. Now, do you know much about those magazines from back then?
Look, I used to walk past them on the shelf. They just basically seem to be advertising makeup and inadequacy to girls.
That's true. That's true. That's definitely a big part of it, beauty standards. But also under that, there was this sinister undertone around how women need to do this stuff for men and you need to look a certain way. And there'd be headlines like on the front of Cosmo, blow your man's mind with these new moves. And there'd be like sealed sections and you'd open them up and it would be like sex tips and dress like this for your man, how to impress your man, how to get men to like you. And it was all about women shape-shifting. Now, Mia Friedman was the head of those magazines at that time, right? And that was a big part of what I studied with my master's. And so women have been conditioned basically our entire lives that who you are as you exist is not enough. There's always a costume to be worn. And now that costume is shifted. It's no longer do this to appeal to men. It's do this because this is anti-man. So the costume's been flipped. And I find Mia Friedman really interesting. For those who don't know who she is, she left all that and she started Mamma Mia. Now, Mamma Mia is quite left and I would dare say she's almost progressive. But the interesting caveat is Mia is Jewish.
Right.
So on most far left topics, Mia is very woke. But the one where she got tripped up was the pro-Palestine. So since October 7, 2023, Mia has been fracturing from her base. And this is the one that people start. It's either the Palestine or the trans thing. They're the two things that get people offside. You and I went to. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. Excuse me. You and I went to Diary of a CEO's event. Here in Melbourne. Stephen Bartlett, and you and I are on him.
Yeah. I mean, he's very successful, but I don't think he's all that impressive.
Him as himself, I would say no. This is just my opinion. You guys can totally disagree. He has great guests on.
He has great guests on, and he's obviously got business nous. Like I cannot question his business nous. But watching him on stage, what he had to say, how he said it, and the fact that he ran himself out of time and got this far through his notes, which were that long.
He went 90 minutes over time.
Yeah, and he was barely, and this was his last show. He had done this show how many times up to that point in time?
Yeah, we were the last.
How have you not fixed this by now? Right? There were such fundamental structural problems with what he did and how he did it, but I cannot deny the success of the podcast.
He's following that traditional trajectory of entrepreneur becomes self-help guru, becomes Tony Robbins.
He's becoming Tony Robbins. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay, so he recently had a guest on, and I'll play it in a second, and they were having a discussion around how the birth rate's dropping. Now, remember, Diary of a CEO podcasts are about 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. And so you can imagine all the nuance. And it's exactly the same with the Oddcast. We go up, we go down, we tease out our ideas, and we're sort of jumping all over the place. So, like, we find it really hard to grab segments out of the Oddcast because...
Poor Roy.
Well, I mean, at least Roy does like a 10-minute segment.
Sure.
But imagine trying to get 90 seconds.
Yeah.
You could grab me for 90 seconds and everyone would be like, oh my God, she's woke, she's progressive.
You could make you say almost anything. Just by picking which bit.
So... remember that when you see clips from podcasts. So just keep that framing in mind. I'm going to play you this and then we'll talk about it because I thought this was truly fascinating.
Report that we've discovered a new form.
Oh, hang on. That's not the one. Sorry. Hang on. Keep going. Let me pull up. That's the wrong one. Sorry. That is the wrong. Here we go. There. Got it. All right.
Between the age of 15 and 50 will not pass on their genes. They will effectively die out of the gene mating pool. So people will hear that and many people will go, well, that's evolution.
Yeah.
But I want to understand if there's a counterpoint to that. Should society intervene? Why is, in the short term, we're going to have a lot of men who are disillusioned, that become incels, find themselves in pockets of the internet, are resentful, all those kinds of things. But should society intervene to course correct that? Should we put systems in place to make sure that those men meet partners?
The thing that he says about should we put structures in place to course correct. A woman has answered dressed as the Handmaid's Tale and said, I've got an idea for a system. So that's the bit where people are going, hang on, he is starting to, I'm watching him become a Trojan horse for kind of the incel movement. Holly, you're a dabbler in
I am a dabbler.
Diary of a CEO. Do you think that he has fallen down an incel trapdoor here?
I think that the problem is that they're really... anyone who'll come on and say something controversial is the person that you want on the show. If you've got 2.5 hours of someone who's never going to make a generalization, never going to give you a neat soundbite, never say anything that's going to make people get upset in the comments, no one's listening to your show. So it's probably less of an ideological allegiance that he's like, I'm an incel and I want to platform incels. I think people like incels, and more, who can I get who will stick their neck out and say something not very nuanced? Because we all know that to avoid becoming that kind of enragement bait, you have to be really nuanced in what you're saying, and that's not sexy in a clip.
A huge amount of men between the age of 15 and 50.
She's not wrong at first blush. I mean, that response, I think, is correct.
Her response was good, but did you get the bit where, do you think he's falling down a trap
trying
door?
Looking for the rage bait. She was literally looking for the soundbite in response.
So this is the kind of shit women are talking about, incels. I can tell you now, I have never thought to discuss incels. It's never even crossed my mind. But on women's podcasts...
oh, yeah, it's all about it.
That's all they talk about. They see men. And the reason I'm painting this picture is because we're having different conversations. We're not even in the same room with each other.
Yeah.
Most women who listen to... and I was on Life Uncut. My episode hasn't gone live yet, and I'm curious if they'll ever play it. I don't know. Maybe they won't. Who knows? I hope they do, because we didn't talk about politics. But... I can see now one of the hosts has actually commented on this. I'm not going to say who, but I can see it. Anyway, these are the conversations most women are having. We talk about how women are going left because they're talking about incels, like that's the greatest threat.
Yeah.
You and I are talking about the birth rates collapsing and how we, from an economic perspective, are not going to be able to support all these people who rely
from a civilizational
on
perspective.
government subsidies to help them fund their lives.
Yep.
These are the women who are going, I'm ADHD and I just got diagnosed and now it all makes sense and now I feel like I have an explanation for why I am the way I am and now I can go on NDIS and get the support I always need. Whereas you and I are going, hang on a minute, no, the reason you're having that is because you've removed agency.
Yeah,
you're always outsourcing this to someone else. These conversations, we're having conversations with people who aren't even talking about what we're talking about.
Yeah. So what's really interesting to me, there is a gulf between sort of women's podcasting and men's podcasting. And globally, men-hosted podcasts are way more popular than women-hosted podcasts. And I think it's because the sorts of things that men talk about are relatively universally interesting. Women can listen to it and get an enormous amount of value out of it. Unfortunately, a lot of women-hosted podcasts are talking about stuff that is only of interest to women who share a somewhat of an ideological alignment with them.
Yeah.
And I'll buttress that by saying this. Think about the biggest podcasts. Okay, you got Joe Rogan. He'll have just about anybody on. I mean, he certainly falls into that category that the guest was responding to there. Like, he just wants the person who says the crazy thing, the crazy ideas.
Do you think he wants to? Do you think Joe? Do you reckon he's fallen down that clickbait thing?
With the amount of time he's spent having like alien people on and
I think that's no. I'm going to go into bat for Joe. To be fair, I actually haven't listened to a Joe Rogan episode in probably 3 years. I overdid it during COVID, but Joe is Joe. He doesn't need to make any more money. He knows this.
Sure.
So I think Joe has people on that are interesting to him. Joe believes in aliens.
Okay.
Joe believes in this stuff.
Irrespective, he talks about things that lots of people find interesting.
Yeah.
But he also, in amongst there, he talks about self-development. He talks about physical fitness. He talks about mental toughness. He gets on guests that talk all about accountability and responsibility and strength and etc. You look at Jordan Peterson. He's all about taking accountability, right? Taking responsibility for yourself and for those in your care, stepping up, slaying the monster, becoming the monster, but harnessing it, how to be better.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in Jordan's case, he's talking mostly at young men, but it's applicable across the board, and he has a massive following. You look, whether it's Andrew Huberman or Goggins or blah, 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 you can find all of these males who are out there podcasting relentlessly, and they're talking about taking responsibility and making yourself better.
I would say they're talking about a macro thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's with a vision set upwards.
Yes.
With the female-led podcast, not that I've spent a lot of time with them, but mostly where their vision is across the aisle at men. So men's vision or men-led podcasts are calling your vision up.
Yeah.
Women-led podcasts are actually telling you look across and then look down.
I would argue, I'd put up a reel. I actually want to play it because this ties into this. Women look laterally, like you said, because women rely on those kind of binaries to be able to position themselves in our culture. Yeah, socially. Yeah. And I'm going to play you what I'm going to play you what I put up, and you can tell me what kind of reaction I got from this.
Okay.
So this is on beauty standards, but it's applicable. And the reason I'm playing this, guys, is not because I'm trying to get away from the Aussie stuff.
You just want one more view on your Instagram reel.
That too.
Yeah.
No. I think where we're going wrong in the culture war is we're not recognizing where women are. And we keep saying, it's woke women.
It's because they jumped off the deep end.
Yes. No, I agree. Why? Why did they do this? And this paints a pretty good picture. So just watch this. Hang on. Beauty standards, not because of the Sorry, the opening line's important. Women will never let go of beauty standards, not because of the patriarchy, but because they need them to position and leverage themselves amongst each other. Let's talk about it. This is a post that popped up from influencer Ruby Tuesday Matthews on my feed, and before you feel compelled to go and comment on her body, I encourage you to watch to the end of this reel. For those of you who are new here, my name's Carly. I just spent the last 2 years studying beauty standards for my master's, and I wrote a thesis called Chimera on beauty standards, AI, and social media. And I thought this was a perfect post to illustrate how women using digital lateral surveillance use beauty standards and weaponize the way we look online to position themselves amongst our peers. Now let's state the obvious. Ruby knew exactly what she was doing posting this picture. She posted 3 consecutive photos of her in a bikini. This is what we call rage bait. She knew you were going to comment, and hell, she knew it was going to end up on the Daily Mail. The most valuable commodity we have is your attention, and keeping eyeballs on our page becomes incredibly lucrative if you know how to weaponize people's emotions. When we see photos like this on social media, we feel compelled to weigh into it. because it ignites an inherent desire within us to position ourselves amongst our peers. Leon Festinger's social comparison theory suggests that humans have an inherent need for self-evaluation, and when objective standards are not available, they assess their abilities and opinions against those of others. Women are conditioned for this peer-to-peer regulation. Feminist writer Alison Winch referred to this as the gyneopticon, where the many women watch the many women. In this form of surveillance, control is decentralized and internalized. Women monitor each other's behavior and appearance through digital spaces that masquerade as entertainment or community. This logic is exemplified in snark forums like Tattle Life or Reddit. These online spaces are devoted to the collective dissection of female influencers, public figures, and everyday users. This is crucial because it demonstrates how the regulation of beauty is enacted collectively, making conformity more persuasive and difficult to resist. This environment fundamentally reshapes how women see themselves and others. It intensifies the pressures of self-surveillance and the pursuit of these unrealistic ideals. It's no surprise that being thin is once again aspirational. With the rise of GPL-1s, it's now a little bit easier to access these ultra-thin ideals. To be clear, I am not accusing Ruby of being on GLP-1s, I'm merely illustrating that it's now available. So no surprises that the people who championed body positivity have now jumped at the opportunity to lose all that weight. Lizzo, I'm looking at you. It's become reflex to blame the patriarchy and men for this behaviour. Women love to outsource their agency to men to absolve themselves of responsibility for poor behaviour. The truth that very few women will admit to themselves is we need to observe how other women look because it helps us find our position in our culture. It's not men doing that, ladies, it's us. Influencers like Ruby have become inseparable from the surveillance that captures them. As both a beneficiary and casualty of the digital beauty machine, Ruby is leveraging herself by using digital media outrage to position herself as an aspirational figure. The ugly truth is, with our beauty standards, there's no hierarchy and therefore no social leverage. If you want to
So that was the point that I was coming to, but in the difference that I'm observing between men's podcast and women-led podcasts. Men's podcasts are all about taking agency, taking responsibility.
And they're about ideas.
And they're about ideas. Women's podcasts, such as I've heard them, tend to be much more about how other people are affecting you. It's a loss of agency.
It's very self-focused to a point
but also
where...
victim. Victim of circumstance, victim of other people's behavior, victim of misogyny.
What do you call it when it's like you can't see past your nose? That's what it feels like to me. It's all about me, my feelings.
Narcissism.
Well, I was going to say narcissism, but I don't think it's narcissism in the sense of
sort of the pathological sense. But it is a very self-absorbed.
Yes,
self-absorbed.
And I think what this is like again, it comes from privilege. You've got such abundance that you now have to like find problems.
Yeah. Let me find something miserable. I used to reflect on this. You know, in your job, whatever the worst thing you do in your job is the thing you come to hate.
Yeah.
So you might have a fantastic job, but every week you have to take your own damn waste paper bin out from under your desk and empty it into the big bin down the end of the hall, and you just hate having to do that. And then every week you get annoyed about this thing. There's some other bloke out there who empties bins for a living.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't think twice about the bins. He hates that one particular bin that's always stinky and smelly, right? And we all calibrate. The worst thing in our day is the worst thing in our day.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. You have to have a pretty damn good life to sit there dredging up grievances the way that some of these people do.
Now, the reason I played that reel is because this reel has gone viral, but not in a way that you would think.
Right.
Now, normally when a reel of mine goes viral, it's flooded with comments and then people argue in the comments and whatever.
Sure.
There are very few comments on this, but it has been shared almost 1,000 times.
Yeah, wow.
What does that tell you?
I'm not sure. What do you interpret
This
from
is
that?
incredibly indicative to me. Women have watched this reel and they're sending it to their peers. They're sending it to their closest friend. They are too afraid to express how they feel in a comment.
Yeah, okay.
They will not do it in a public place, which tells me two things. There's a couple that did, to be fair. There's a few people who did comment. But the people who did comment are people who I would argue have quite healthy self-esteem.
Sure.
They're like, yeah, this is my opinion.
Yep.
Much like me.
Yep.
It's my face, my words on my Instagram.
Yep.
Happy to do it. But I think more and more women are seeing the fractures in this and identifying that this is a problem, but they don't want to go first and they certainly don't want to put their name to it.
Yeah.
And what's interesting of this, the people who liked it. Now, not everyone who likes my reel follows me.
Sure.
But interesting, I'm not going to throw any of them under the bus, but I had some very big people in the media like this reel.
Interesting. People
that you wouldn't expect. And one of them I said to G last night, like, this person followed. He's like, who's that? I'm like, an Olympian. a very well-known Olympian. And I thought, this is what's wrong with women. And I'm painting this picture for a reason. Women know something's wrong.
Yeah.
Women understand something's wrong. They don't want to say it. They're too afraid to have the conversation. And now with hate speech and all of these things being enacted, women are now never going to be able to have these conversations. And we just, that clip I played before, that guy saying this is Orwellian, that women normally lean to the state.
Yeah.
Yes, because
100%.
laterally, we cannot defect.
So here is something interesting, and then we need to get into the third layer. So someone posted up some polling about how young people are socialist onto the internet yesterday. So I did the dumb thing and started an argument with a stranger on the internet.
Oh no!
And I made the point, like, okay, young people are socialist. Of course they are, because children are always socialist. You know why? Because the family unit is a socialist unit. It's the one place where socialism works. Young people are always going to be socialist because they're growing up from being a child, and children they're not socialist. They're Marxist. Like, they are off with your head if you don't give everything to meet their whims and needs. Like,
I will throw this tantrum, embarrass you.
They are the ultimate the ultimate Marxists. From each according to their ability to each according to his need. That's the creed of Marxism. That's also how families work, right? Parents provide for kids because kids can't provide for themselves. Their family unit is meant to be a socialist unit. Now, what that means, obviously, is that as young people grow up, we need them to grow out of their socialism. And that is, in fact, what we see in the main. The vast majority of people grow out of their socialism. They certainly become less socialist as time goes by, and most people who become conservatives or free market believers, etc., will become more so as time goes by. But so we understand the role of children in that. But here's the interesting thing: and this is going to piss so many people off, in the vision of family, where the man is primarily responsible for the providing. It's not to say the woman doesn't do anything, she works her ass off. But in terms of, if the bills aren't paid, it's the man's fault. If they lose their house, it's the man's fault. If there isn't food on the table, it's the man's fault, right? That has been the view of all of human history until very, very recently. It's a very, very novel idea that we might pin responsibility for that onto women. In that view, women get rewarded for being socialist.
Yeah.
Women get rewarded for finding the person who has the greater capacity to provide. And then, yes, meeting their other needs, not the material needs, meet their other needs so that they provide for you. And I would actually argue within the context of a family, that's perfectly healthy. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with me.
Well, there's that comment around communism works in a group of 10 people.
Yeah, correct. Well, and it certainly works inside a family where you have those familial bonds. But then when you allow people who are going to be innately more socialist and who have evolutionarily or societally been rewarded for being socialist, getting to vote alongside the people who are capitalist, who actually understand how things get made, how the world actually has to function. Well, no wonder there's such a big gap between the two. And it doesn't surprise me at all the charts that we're seeing of women going way, way, way left over the last couple of decades. And women have gone way off the deep end in terms of their political attitudes, way out towards socialism. That, of course, has coincided with the sugar daddy, the government sugar daddy phenomenon that we've seen. And so no longer are they having to appeal to men in order to get their needs met. No longer are they having to find a socialist unit called a family. They can now prop up a socialist unit called a state.
Yeah.
And have their sugar daddy fantasies actually met by the coldness of the state. I think that's a deeply unsatisfying thing. I think it's one of the causes of an enormous amount of unhappiness on the part of women. But from a psychological perspective, I kind of go, well, yeah, what do you expect? Women are going to be more socialist than men. That's actually kind of baked into the cake.
Yeah. There was some clip I wanted to play you. I did save it. This one. And then I promise you will get that. But this will give us a bit of a chuckle, but also I think explain a lot. So this is actually Fox News of all things. So I'm just going to play this. Actually, I might put it on this one and we'll go.
It should seem simple. A minute?
All right.
If you're driving 60 miles per hour, how long does it take you to drive 60 miles?
I have no clue. Why does this seem so hard? This should seem simple. A minute?
Hour and a half, 2 hours maybe? I don't know. An hour?
Would it be 30 minutes?
You've lost a lot of credibility.
If you're out to dinner, you're paying the bill's $100, you're giving the waitress 20%, how much is she getting?
Man, I'm a chef too, ain't this some bullshit?
I'm really bad at math, don't ask me any more math.
That's amazing.
Keep
I
going.
knew it was bad.
$50.
Wow.
$30.
$20.
$120. I'm locking that in.
I was like, duh.
Spell the word restaurant.
Oh, I see. I struggle. I do struggle with restaurant. I'll admit that.
It's crazy. Y'all got me. RESTHE.
Restaurant.
UNT.
RESTAURANT.
RESTA.
No.
Oh.
Let me just stop you right there.
TERAUNT. I think, but I second guess myself.
CEO stand for?
Oh gosh. I don't know.
Corporate entertainer organizer.
Chief Executive Officer.
CEO.
Want to put our heads together?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Didn't work?
No.
Damn it.
It's very frustrating. I can't even tell you.
What body of water is on the east coast of the United States?
Pacific Ocean.
Mediterranean.
Oh my God.
Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, that's
easy. The Hudson River.
Okay, that is a body of water on the east coast.
We're making progress.
How many inches are in a foot?
I don't know that, man.
18.
7.
12 inches in a foot.
I have no idea how many. I don't know how big my foot is actually.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Hang on. The last one kills me.
What is heavier, a pound of bricks or a pound of feathers?
A pound of bricks.
Pound of bricks.
Bricks will be denser, so bricks.
She's half right. I mean,
1 pound of bricks or 1 pound of feathers?
Bricks.
1 pound of bricks and 1 pound of feathers. What is heavier?
1 pound of bricks.
They're the same.
How is that?
Because they're both 1 pound.
Oh, they both weigh a pound. Yes! That was too easy.
That's a ridiculous question for me.
oh
Who
no.
wrote the Gettysburg Address?
No idea.
The fact Americans don't know
That's
this.
the that was at war with the that was way back in the day with the Gettysburg War. His name is Getty.
Abraham Lincoln.
Donald Trump.
It's my privilege to be here in Gettysburg.
What do you want to tell Jesse Waters on Fox News?
I don't know how
Anyway.
you expect.
You see things like
gosh.
that. To
Yeah.
be fair, restaurant would trip me up too.
I would have to think very hard, and I'm not 100% sure I'd get it. That is a
I'd
word
be
I
able to write it on paper.
yeah, I rely on autocorrect for restaurant.
Or I find like writing it down is a lot easier than like saying I need to see the word. But not being able to get Gettysburg, not being able to get 1 pound, not being able to get a lot of those was
like the just basic geography. Like those are some really simple questions. 20% of 100, like
yeah, and especially in remember these are American-centric questions. Like they have tipping culture.
Yeah, they have tipping. Yeah,
we don't even have tipping here in Australia.
But I mean, 20%. You don't have to have a tipping culture to be able to calculate what 20% of 100 is.
Yeah,
that's
but
amazing.
The reason these clips are important is like, man, these people vote.
All right.
Like,
we've got to
go
do it.
on.
I've procrastinated for as long as I can.
Upset everyone.
Okay. So, you know how in Europe, we've got this massive rise happening of reform in the UK, AFD in Germany, Le Pen in France, and elsewhere as well. But those are kind of the big three that we hear a bit more about. And in France, they have tried time and time again. They've put Marine Le Pen in prison. They trumped up a big bogus corruption thing on her, put her in prison for it. In Germany, the AFD have been at various times legally attacked, accused of being a terrorist organization, accused of being some Nazi reborn kind of organization. They've thrown absolutely everything at them. This bill that passed yesterday in Australia is the legal framework needed for our government to do the exact same thing to One Nation. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not a prediction that they will. I will talk about the circumstances under which, the circumstances that would make it more likely. But understand, there is now absolutely nothing standing in between Anthony Albanese and making One Nation illegal.
How?
So all you do is you go back to the comments that Pauline Hanson has made in the past, because it's retrospective. So this is specifically, we're talking about the hate group aspect of this legislation. It is retrospective, so it applies to everything that Pauline Hanson and every other One Nation member has ever said in their life.
We're all going to end up in jail at this point.
And anything that she said that made reference to a national identity or an ethnic identity or a colour, Do you think that maybe Pauline Hanson said one or two things that
She
might
has
fall
said
into
a
that
few
category
things.
that might make somebody fear harassment? Okay? At that point, well, One Nation are clearly a hate group.
Well, so are the Greens then.
Well, absolutely, but this is all under the discretion of the Prime Minister and his various yes men. So understand, in the legislation, procedural fairness is not a thing.
Yeah.
And also, there's no appeal.
Yeah.
So this is stripped everybody of their rights. You are not innocent until proven guilty. You are guilty if they say you're guilty. This is Star Chamber stuff. So One Nation can be declared to be a hate group. Any member can be thrown in prison unless they immediately disband. This can be, and it will be, I believe, to one degree or another, weaponized against legitimate political opponents. But here's the play, in my view, and here's where it starts to get really, really dark. The NSN have disbanded because they can see, obviously, this was aimed at them. They've been talked about in relation to it. So they've done the whole disband thing.
But if they're retroactive, like...
No. So the group still has to exist. But you can define a group based on things they did before. Right? So you can say you're a hate group because of the thing you said before this legislation came in. But the group still, if the group doesn't exist, then no action can be taken.
Right.
So what's going to happen now is we're going to see the continued rise of One Nation, and the government is going to be trawling through, because they still want to have the veneer of legitimacy. They want to be able to sell to the normies that actually they're protecting Australia. They are going to be trawling through all the new recruits, all the new membership lists, all the people showing up to their branch meetings because they're forming branches now, all the people standing as candidates. They're going to go through every single one of them with a fine-tooth comb. And if I was them, just a bit of opposition, play the war game, play the red team, I would be looking for any individuals who can be painted with the brush that they've been associated with the NSN in any way. If they attended the March for Australia rallies where the NSN spoke as soon as the mic became an open mic, we've got you. If they have been involved in anything in any way, shape or form alongside the NSN, then what you do is you start to say, well, the NSN disbanded, but actually they've regrouped inside of One Nation. That's what's happened. Have a look at this person. Have a look at that person. Have a look at that person. We've found multiple people in multiple different states who have NSN association. Yes, they disbanded, but they didn't stop. They joined the racist party. This is the play. And they will then use that.
If you're saying this out loud, is this going to give them ideas?
No. They're way ahead of it. Why do you think they wrote the legislation?
Yeah.
So, and why do you think Susan Ley supported it? I think we are so deep down the rabbit hole now, and their level of cynicism with how they pass this legislation and their complete disregard for democratic norms and for the Australian people should set off your alarm bells.
Yeah.
Right? So
this is the most conspiracy theorist version I've seen.
I wish I could say this was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a playbook.
Yeah.
This is a playbook, and we are watching it on. They've opened the playbook. They have all the legislative stuff in place now. So what happens then? They say, right, One Nation has to disband. That is effective immediately. Now, even if they launch a High Court challenge based on freedom of political communication, because they would be political at that point, so they might be able to say, well, hey, now you're violating this. They would have to get a stay. What's it called? They'd have to get a judge to basically say you can continue operating while the court case plays out. Probably won't happen. And so they'll time it to make sure that One Nation aren't on the ballot. Now, if you think this isn't going to happen, look at what they've done in Germany. Look at what they've done in France. Look at some of the stuff they've tried to pull on reform. Right now, we haven't seen the end game with reform yet because they weren't a true threat until this election cycle.
Look what they tried to do with Trump as well.
Look what they tried to do with Trump. All bets are off. Now, do you really believe that Susan Ley is going to sit there and watch the Liberal Party get eaten alive by One Nation and not want to have a conversation with the Prime Minister? Do you really think if One Nation starts to actually not just lead the Liberal Party, but actually start to look like they're competitive for winning government, do you think that Anthony Albanese isn't going to start saying, well, what options have we got, people? What have we got on the table? I genuinely believe that the vilification of One Nation is about to go off the charts. They won't necessarily do it straight away. I'm not saying this is going to happen straight away. You'd be a fool to do it now because there's too long for it to play out in the court. You do it 3 months before the election.
Yeah.
You do it just before the ballots have been settled, just before all the paperwork has to be in for who your candidates are and everything else, in time for the Australian Electoral Office to take them off the ballot, not with enough time for them to win in court and get back on the ballot. At that point, we're faced with a coup. This is no longer a legitimate democratic government anymore.
Yeah.
That is a government in the same way that Maduro was the president of Venezuela, in the same way that Xi Jinping is the president of China. that we are looking at an organised coup, a coup, albeit from our politicians, politicians carrying out a coup, but to deny the will of the Australian people. And again, if you think I'm being too cynical, look what they did with our submissions to the hate speech bill. You think they care about your opinion?
They do not.
They do not. And if it's a question between holding on to power by any means necessary, fair or foul, or respecting democratic norms, we already know that they will opt for power.
Yeah.
They will opt for their own best interest above Australia's. Now, where this gets really dark is, where does that leave us? Because if they play this playbook to one degree or another, if they play it to the point that either they're disrupting individual candidates and trying to, play whack-a-mole individually so that it's less obvious, or whether they actually just go for the party as a whole, we are literally faced with a coup. We are now well outside of democratic norms. And I'm a big advocate of civil disobedience, and I've been a big advocate of peaceful civil disobedience all the way through. But just as government will use force to ensure your compliance, there comes a point where you start to have to use force to ensure your non-compliance, to ensure your disobedience to a corrupt state. And I'm not going to go any further than this right now, but to say, if we are faced with a coup in the form of using these laws to take one nation out of the next federal election, if that happens, we will be entering the gloves off phase. Now, I'm not saying for sure that it will. I'm saying that the legal framework is in place and we need to watch for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I actually see that happening. And I also think people are not going to like me saying this. I think it actually needs to happen. Because the reason I say this is everything that we have spoken about since COVID, since things have become truly authoritative in this country, authoritarian, we have seen plenty of examples of this playing out, but not in a way that actually impacts the majority. There has been an attack on small business. There's been an attack on body autonomy. There's been an attack on free speech. But something like that, I hate saying this. I don't want to say this, but I truly believe something terrible does need to happen. It is the only thing that will be the catalyst.
But of course, if something terrible happens, the government will then use that as another opportunity.
No. I don't mean as in like another terrorist attack. I mean doing something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
But the government will be just like Daniel Andrews did during COVID. It's for your own good. We're protecting you. This is for your safety. We know best. You need to trust the experts.
But also, thank God, that actually was a catalyst to a lot of people waking up. Not all.
I agree.
Not enough.
I agree.
But those draconian lockdowns, that last lockdown of Melbourne, and those of you who weren't in Melbourne at the time, you cannot fathom.
You don't know, man. You weren't there.
Yeah, well, seriously.
Like that. It is like that.
And it's even people, when I speak to people from Sydney or Queensland who weren't there for that last lockdown, you cannot understand the psychological warfare of that time.
Yeah.
For me, it was different as well because it was post what happened to me. But psychologically, Victorians were broken, and people acted in two ways. One, they just completely acquiesced. They just rolled over.
Yep.
Whatever, daddy government. So much so that it became almost like Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
And then the people went the other way, and it broke them in half. And, I would be in the group that got broken in half. You can never go back. And now these are the people who are now supporting One Nation and, advocating for free speech. People like us who are building platforms and things like that.
Yep.
Not enough people were broken by COVID. I've said this all the way along. Not enough people were impacted by it. Something like this where, there's enough things happening now, as particularly around mass migration and crime. I would say they're the two things that people and the cost of living, of course.
Yep.
Something like this where you have a common sense party who are speaking for the centrists, right? Like One Nation, if people keep calling them a far right party, I think she is very common sense focused. Yeah. I would say Pauline, to a degree, is quite centrist.
She's the epitome of, I'm not far right, I'm right so far.
Yeah.
Like honestly, and I don't even agree with her policies, and yet I have to concede she's been damn right on a lot of things.
So like the reason I say she's not far right, and this is not to be rude, but like, the far right usually has a sense of religious fundamentalism, right? Like, the traditional conservative.
Or genuine authoritarianism.
Yeah.
So I'd agree religious, but for some of them, it's power itself is what they worship.
Yeah, like if you're going down to fascism, for sure. But I mean, when people think of your traditional conservative, I'm talking about your normies, right? They think your Tony Abbotts. They think someone like from yesteryear who's a staunch Catholic or a conservative Christian, and they're going to give us the Handmaid's Tale. Pauline's not that. She's someone who says exactly what she thinks. She's a bit like Trump in that regard, but she's someone that speaks to Australia first and common sense. And I think your average Australian, I mean, we saw it with The Voice. They exist. They are real.
Sure.
They're not your traditional conservatives, but your centrist, moderate Aussie who's like, no, I've had a gutful of this. I'm done with this. And these are people who are being priced out. Like, I'm seeing this particularly around the housing market at the moment. I don't know why these things pop up in my social media feed, but around people who are being priced out of relatively benign suburbs because houses that are dilapidated are selling for $2 million plus. And they're being bought out by Chinese or Indian migrants.
Sure.
Now, like you can deny that that's their right. But if you're an average person who's done all the right things and now all of a sudden you can't even afford a house in your own suburb, like that radicalizes people. I'm not saying it's right, but it radicalizes people.
We've mentioned before what Konstantin Kisin said at ARC on this, and I think this is one of the great sort of observations that I've heard him make. If you take away someone's ability to put down roots, that affects absolutely everything about their commitment, about their willingness to invest. If they can't get a house, then they're less likely to settle into a relationship. They're certainly less likely to have kids.
Yeah.
They're less likely to want to defend a country where they don't feel like they have roots, where they don't feel like they're welcome, where they feel like they are forever a renter in the literal and the metaphorical sense. You've got to allow people to get a foothold, to be able to start their own businesses, to be able to own something, some real estate, a patch of land, to be able to put down roots and have a family and fulfill those instincts and drives that the majority of people have. And if you deny them that, then you cannot be upset with them when they see no value worth defending.
I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a minute and be incredibly cynical. We're seeing this right now in Iran. They've turned off the internet. And conservative estimates are upwards of 100,000 people have been slaughtered. Right? We'll never know. And we're not going to know the true number for a long time. That's how easy it is. Turn off the internet.
Yeah.
What have Julie Inman Grant and Albanese been trying to do for the last 3 years with X? X is the important one because you have a free speech absolutist at the helm. Meta, we have seen through, I said this last week, saw through COVID, they will bend to the government of the day.
They kiss the ring,
Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg and all of those guys.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg, They will bend to the government of the day. Elon Musk will not. X is truly the last bastion of free speech in the Western world.
It's the armor plating which, if it's pierced, everything else is easy.
And now the reason I bring that up is thank God for X, because right now we have a front row seat to what's happening to the minute in places where there's thankfully still internet. So we can see what's going on in Minneapolis. We can see what's going on with Trump. And most importantly, we can see what's going on in Canada, Europe, and the UK. UK and Canada and Europe are further down the road than us. They have been globalized. They have had mass migration. They've had radical Islamists come into their country. And we are seeing what happens when traditionally homogenized national states like Sweden and Norway have had mass migration, Belgium as well. And Australians can see, they can access it if they choose to look. Not everyone's looking, but those who are getting frustrated can certainly access information. If Julie Inman Grant has her way and X goes, we won't know that stuff. That it won't be taught. The only way you'll get that information is anecdotally. And it'll be easily go, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That couldn't happen.
So now, unfortunately for the government and for Albanese, when things happen, and I've said this before, they can't get in front of the narrative at the moment. They cannot weaponize it. They can't use it to their advantage. It's already gone viral.
The truth takes less time to put its pants on these days.
Yes. But if you ban X, the truth goes, and you ban people being able to speak about the truth. You ban Australian citizens from being able to use their social media feeds to be able to talk about the truth.
Yep.
I would say Australia will be lost if X goes. That's it. We're done.
So I want to reiterate something I've said before, and maybe we'll finish on this dark point.
And we can't, but yes,
Well,
go.
This is the collision. The globalists who thought that the world was theirs, their plaything, and that if they just kept on pushing their agenda forward, then they would end up with complete control. Technology has moved in their favor. They can now exercise control over people in ways that were unimaginable 30 years ago. The level of surveillance, the level of lateral surveillance that people can be coerced into participating in, the ability to control people's money. So much of that was impossible only a few decades ago. They thought the world was theirs. They thought this is ours now, and it's just a matter of time. If we just slowly push forward, eventually we will have the entire cage in place and humanity will belong to us. Then, as I've said before, they pushed too hard during COVID. You mentioned it a second ago. A lot of people, that was a wake-up moment. But also, the re-election of Donald Trump, I believe, was a genuine destiny-changing moment in time, because he's now broken so much of that stranglehold over America, and America is the single biggest military, single biggest economy, and culturally incredibly influential around the entire world. We're now watching these resistance movements rising. I've mentioned Germany, France, and the UK already, but it's happening in so many other parts of the world. It just so happens we've got Javier Milei in Argentina showing us for the first time in my lifetime what a libertarian government might look like. There's all of this pushback happening, and here in Australia, we are rising in the same way that we're seeing happen right around Europe.
Yeah.
But the people who hold power right now are not going to give it up easily.
No.
This is the collision. This is the impact. And this next 2 years, this is when the impact will be felt. It's going to get messy. There's going to be, like, if you thought COVID was bad, I suspect we're going to be right back into the depths of COVID levels of conflict, interpersonal conflict, being pitted against each other, the kind of division, the kind of misinformation, disinformation campaign being run by the government to try and control and coerce people. I think all of that is coming back over the next 2 years. Now, let me say again, I believe our future is amazing on the other side of this collision. This collision is going to be messy as hell. We have to win it. We have no choice. We are betraying our children and we are betraying our ancestors if we fail to win this collision. We have to win this collision. And I believe we will, and I believe on the other side of it, life's going to be amazing. But this is going to be messy as hell, and we need to brace ourselves. And I'm kind of done for today, but I want to make one last thing, right? We talk about buying T-shirts and caps and supporting our work and so forth. Do yourself a favor. With Carly's help, I am relaunching my Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass. And maybe I need to rename it, You Get Your Shit Together masterclass.
Prepare for war.
Because you've literally got 2 years. This trap, they are trying to spring the remaining parts of this trap, they are trying to spring before the next federal election. With the rise of one nation, they've got no choice. They thought they had more time.
Yeah.
Now they have to move fast. So you're going to hear about that in the coming weeks. And honestly, seriously consider doing that. I ran it in 2024. It was life-changing for a lot of people. I've got a couple of testimonials coming up about that, where people are willing to go on the record, go on camera and talk about how that impacted them. But getting your head, your focus, your values, understanding what courage is, understanding community and how to make it work and how to be a useful part of it, what you're looking for, and having some practical next steps. That's what this course is about. If you think, like, if you're looking at your current situation, you're going, hey, I don't think I'm ready for what's coming, then have a serious think about doing that course. And I'm not just doing that to sell it. Yes, of course, I want to be able to make money so I can keep doing what I'm doing. What we do is going to be really important over the next 1.5 years, 2 years as well. And so we need that revenue to do that. So I'm not ashamed to be asking for that. But for your own sake, if you're sitting there going, yeah, maybe I'm not quite ready for this, for what's coming, especially now, like, let this be the final alarm bell, right? This legislation passing, let this be the final alarm bell. If you're not ready, you need to get ready. If you don't think that you already know what you need to do, then maybe joining that values course and that Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass might be a pretty smart way to start.
I think my intentions for this year have shifted a bit. I was going down the culture path, but I actually think at the crux of everything, what I'm focused on is reclaiming agency and helping the individual feel more empowered. And I hear, I can't do what you do, Carly. Oh, I couldn't do that. Oh, you bullshit. I can't stomach that anymore. Oh, it's easy for you. No, it's not. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But also, okay, you can't do what I do, but you can do what you do.
Yeah.
Have you actually gone to figure out what that is or not, or are you just copping out?
Yeah. And I think, not to make this about me for a second, but, for those who didn't see it, most of you guys did, but what happened to me in 2021, I'm not comparing myself to anyone that's been targeted by the government before, but I wasn't a political person before that. I wasn't a political commentator. I was just the girl who made the video in COVID, and how ruthlessly they came after me and how vicious that attack was and how coordinated it was. It's only with hindsight that I'm able to look back and go, how did they control that so quickly? It was so swift. And I mean, there's still people who think that I'm guilty of all that, whatever, and I'll never change their minds, and I'm not trying to. But they wanted me to end my life. That was the goal.
That's literally, I second that. That is literally true. They literally wanted you to do that.
They wanted me to take myself out.
They would have celebrated had the news arisen that yet another person had done that.
Yeah. And the reason this matters is because they saw in me, it's not me personally, it's not Carlz J Söda. They saw the attributes that I had that were a threat. I am someone who has healthy self-esteem. I am someone that can critically think. And I'm not someone that's super agreeable. And in a woman, that's the worst
it's a
traits.
dangerous combination.
Yeah. And so they saw the elements and they went, eradicate. And, people think that's hyperbole. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I can tell you now, that being the worst thing that's ever happened to me, I was able to come back from it. Not on my own. Obviously, I've said that before. I had support. But if I can come back from that and then be here, guys, you guys can do anything. Let me tell you now, that's a really extreme example. To go through that and to be here, in between, you might not be me. That's fine. I'm not saying that I'm special, but what I'm saying is if you look at me and go, oh yeah, I can't do that, Carly, but you're not going to have to do it on my scale. You can do it on a small scale.
Yeah, or do something completely different that's more suited to your gifts, to your connections, to your interests.
Not everyone needs to be a podcaster.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
We don't need a large number of podcasters in the world. We need a lot of other things. But ultimately, what I want for people and what the masterclass is focused around is you reclaiming your agency, exactly what you said, but actually reclaiming your agency and then setting a compass, knowing what your values are, knowing what courage is, how to access it when it's
What
needed.
are we working towards?
Knowing how to pick your fights. Not every fight is your fight.
Yeah.
Right? Just because there's a machine gun shooting at you doesn't mean you have to get out of the trench and charge at it. Right? There's a lot of discretion that's needed in a lot of these areas. And you're allowed to look after your own first. You're allowed to say, hey, my primary responsibility is to my wife and my kids or to my family, and I'm going to make sure that we're going to be okay.
I would argue if everyone were doing that whole, if everyone just did. But, I've said this all along. I said this all through COVID. Take care of your corner of the world first.
Yep.
If everyone did that,
100%.
the world would be a totally different place.
Yeah, and that's what this is about. This is not about changing the world. This is about changing your world and the world of the people that you have care of. And in the process, we change the world.
But just on that comment quickly, if I say take care of your corner of the world first, there is a reason you have been discouraged to do that. Allow the state to help you with your kids. Allow the state to do that for you. Allow the state to pay that way. We'll give you subsidies. We'll give you NDIS. We'll give you welfare. We'll give you state schools. We'll give you all of these programs. It's because if you did have the agency to take care of your corner of the world, the government would have far less control over all of us collectively.
Correct. They love dependency. There's the expression, it takes a village. The government's like, no, you don't need the village. You've got us. And if you rebuild that village, that's a threat.
Absolutely. Can I end on some bloody good news?
Yeah, please. Let's do that. And then my bladder needs a break.
Okay. I see. I feel good because I was
no. I'm done. I'm out.
All right. So I just saw this.
If this was MMA, I'd be tapping on the table right now.
So don't poke you?
No.
So this just popped up. So I'm going to play it. I haven't listened to this yet. But it says, go away, would you? This is my dog.
Oh,
Aspen,
fine, I'll go away.
Go away.
Oh, sorry, the dog. Gotcha. Okay.
Just in, President Trump has signed an executive order to bring back mental institutions and insane asylums. We're going to bring them back. Hate to build those suckers, but you've got to get the people off the streets. Honestly, thank fuck.
Yeah. I remember when Larundel was shut down. Larundel was just up the road from, I lived in this triangle. It was my house. There was Pentridge Prison down there and Larundel Insane Asylum up there. And then we were the third one, obviously. And I remember when that was shut down,
You're honest.
and we were told, no, that's fine. They're going to be spread out amongst the community. They're going to be better integrated. We're going to look after them better, blah, blah, blah. Hasn't worked out well.
No.
An enormous amount of dysfunction, an enormous amount of police resources and time, an enormous amount of social harm, crime, violent crime, etc. as a result of people who, I'm sorry, there is a point where you are intellectually disabled to the point that
You're a hazard.
You're a hazard, and rehabilitation isn't possible.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't about someone with autism being given a job opportunity and a dignified life. I'm all in support of that.
That's totally different.
This is about the people that are actually a danger. This is about the people who go and stab a random person on the street while they're walking past them. This is about the people that we see. You go to the city or go into South Melbourne and so forth. You'll see these people walking around.
This can be an outrageous thing, and you can get mad at me, but I'm going to stand by my comment here. We, as well-managed, independent individuals who are all contributing, deserve the right to be able to freely live our lives without the threat of these people. Now, I'm not saying that, you round them up and lock them away. What I'm saying is that the threat needs to be taken away from the public areas so that life can continue on without the threat of being stabbed on a bus by a random black man or stabbed in the lung by a random woman who's transitioning.
So much of that's related to criminal justice as well. Like so many of those people have been on the radar and they could have been dealt with at the criminal level. But let me add one more layer to this. But the
problem is with the problem is with at the criminal level, they'll be thrown into prison. They don't get the help they need.
Well, let me add one more layer. So, you could have insane asylums where people get taken from a prison and get deemed criminally insane and can be brought in. We obviously want to have a very high threshold before people get committed involuntarily, right? That's already the case. If you go to a mental support, whatever, voluntarily, you can check yourself back out again. If you get committed involuntarily, say by the police after a crime or something, you can't just check yourself back out again.
What do they call that in America? 5150?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
So we want the threshold to be very, very high. We do not want this to become a tool with which to violate people's rights. Let's not forget that in the Soviet Union, they declared anyone who believed in God to be insane, right? And that was how they imprisoned a bunch of people. But there are thresholds that can be crossed, and once someone is a perpetual child, a perpetual dependent, they are never going to be capable of actually reliably looking after themselves and operating in society in a manner that isn't a danger to others. At that point.
Australia has it on a much smaller scale given the size of our population compared to America. But like having a look at the opioid crisis and the fentanyl crisis, how do you this is that same argument I make with Nayab Bukali. Like, it gets to a point where it's so bad, something has to be done.
You need a circuit breaker.
And sure, if things had been done earlier, it wouldn't have got to this point. But like when you look at, say, Kensington, Pennsylvania, or even Portland, Oregon, these places that are overrun with people who are arguably suffering from terrible mental health, and then add on to that all the
addiction
drugs.
And everything else,
Let's see what Trump says.
There's a reason for bail, long tested. Signed an executive order to bring back mental institutions and insane asylums. We're going to have to bring them back. Hate to build those suckers, but you got to get the people off the streets. There's a reason for bail.
That's what he said. That's going to have them in a frenzy.
So what I'm enjoying about Trump at the moment is he's not trying to do things one at a time.
No,
because then you get fought on every individual thing. Open up too many fronts. And this is what I would have rather Trump had done a Milei and done that on the government and just slashed departments, etc. But this is what Milei did in Argentina. This is how he was able to slash the size of the government. Open up every single combat front all at once.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously have your plans in place, etc. But they cannot fight you on all of them, which means even if they win a couple of fights, you overwhelmingly get what you want.
He had another one too, just to bring this up. I thought this was good too.
People, vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that more? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people? International
criminal
murder.
Justice system.
He's talking about all the illegal aliens who committed terrible crimes.
These are people that are living.
it's a long clip, but he shows like photos of child abuse and all sorts of heinous things. And I think you're right. Like, just literally hit them, bang, bang.
There aren't enough column inches on the front page to be outraged about all of it at once.
Yeah, and the same thing, it fractures people. But you and I were saying this before we jumped on the podcast. Like, there's a lot of people who are annoyed, like Trump's base, who are annoyed he's not stepping into Minnesota. I'm like, let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Let it go. It's not his problem.
I think Trump made a mistake by sending the National Guard into California. He should have just hung that albatross around Gavin Newsom's neck and said, you want to be a future president? Show us that you can actually maintain some semblance of law and order on your streets.
Yep, I reckon let Minnesota, Minneapolis, let all of it just go. Like, this is Tim Walz's, he was going to be vice president.
This is your dumpster fire, mate.
Yeah, this is who you, thank God, avoided having as your vice president.
Yeah. All right, we can't sign off without talking about the birthday party.
Birthday
party.
Let me bring it up.
21st of February, it's a Saturday. The thank you email that people get when they book a ticket says Friday the 21st. We need to fix that.
Oh.
Yep. Saturday the 21st of February. The location will be sent to you not just before, but a few days before the event. We can't disclose it at the moment, but it's in the inner Bayside suburbs of Melbourne. And
very easy to get to on public transport.
It's going to be a hoot.
Plenty of parking.
So much fun. 200 guests only. That's it. That's the venue capacity. We cannot add more people after that. Tickets are selling pretty fast, so if you are interested, do grab them tonight. 200 people, you and me, we're going to do an actual episode of the Oddcast live in front of that room. It will be somewhat interactive.
It's a bonus episode. That week you get three of us.
Yeah, it's an extra episode. Hopefully there's like stuff going on in the world for us to talk about, and we're not just like, I don't know.
Hi.
Let's talk about tiddlywinks. I don't know.
Tiddlywinks.
The game, not the metaphor. Don't ask.
I won't.
So I'll be doing my stand-up comedy. Don't let that be a reason you don't come. You can just walk out of the room.
I was going to say, I don't know if that's quite the invitation that you think it is.
I won't be offended. You can leave the room while I do that. We're going to have some giveaways and just 200 awesome people in the same room.
Yeah.
Oddies having fun, hanging out.
I'm hoping that I can be Cupid. If you're single and you're an oddie, come along, and I'm gonna
be there or be square.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Do it. It's
high stakes.
Do you know why? Because it's my way of repopulating the planet. I don't plan on having children, but I'm gonna make you have all the kids. Get in there.
How about her? She's got childbearing hips.
Yeah.
That'll be your.
What did you say? I think it's Nate who follows us. Nate's an oddie. I'm like, Nate, I'm hooking you up. You better be at that party.
Dear. I think he can look after himself. He calls himself the Toucher after all.
He does.
Yeah. I think he'll be all over it.
I think Amanda's also single. Amanda, I'm looking at you.
All right. And on that bombshell.
Yeah.
You got 18 months to get your shit together, people. This is I'm pulling the fire. I'm pulling the fire drill alarm. Like, start doing the drills now so that you're ready when the shit hits the fan.
If you guys did your homework last week and you bought the book for book club and you started reading The Fourth Wave, you'll realize fourth turning. You'll realize we are at the end of the fourth turning. Like, we're already in the throes of it. There's a couple more years left.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We got in Australia, I think it's all going to be compressed down to mostly before the next election. If we can throw out the uni party at the next election, then we will have broken the back of it. It won't be over. It never is. It always, the fight for freedom will be ongoing long after I'm dead, but we will have broken the back of it for our generation. In the UK, they've got a bit longer because their next general election doesn't have to be till 2029. And I think it is largely going to come down to that. In these countries where we've got the opposition rising, it is going to come down to, can the powers that be destroy the opposition, criminalize them, destroy their reputation, make them divide and fracture? Can they destroy them from within? They will try every single trick in the book, especially the foul ones, to try and make that happen. Can they do that? Or can these parties hold together, and can the people support them and have a peaceful transition? Because honestly, if these opposition parties get destroyed, then that will be the last legitimate election we have for quite some time. And we're there. Like I've been saying for 15, for what is it now? Since 2015. I've been saying for 11 years, the road to Venezuela is paved with good intentions. If we make the same mistakes, we will end up in the same place. Hey guys, we're making the same mistakes. I cannot be any blunter than that. We are making the same mistakes. We are on our way.
Yeah. And as I said, everyone always wonders, how did it get that way?
This is it. You're watching it.
This is literally how it gets that way.
You're watching it. Now, it's not inevitable. I'm not saying doom and gloom. I'm not saying run away and flee the ship. I'm saying get your shit together. Make sure your house is in order. Make sure that you can look after yourself and your loved ones. And yeah, have a plan B. I'm putting one together for my family. But Don't be a victim. Don't be the person who has to be out there in the breadline the minute the government starts handing out freebies, because then they've got you by the balls. Have some options, get your shit together, and be ready for the collision.
Yeah.
And on that happy note,
oh, God.
Let's end episode 53 of the Oddcast. That was fun, wasn't it? You know what I'm looking forward to?
What?
Not having to drive to Melbourne for 2 weeks.
I thought you said it's not that big a deal.
It's still tiring. Like I'm up at 5:30, which is not too bad.
Tiring. You're in the back of a car the whole day.
Yeah, 9 hours in the back of a car whilst also trying to work on my laptop. Yes, it's.
Do you actually work on your laptop?
Yeah. It's not actually the most enjoyable way to spend a day. I wish that would actually be really. I could have really done with a nap on the way down. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm legit working. I write scripts. I'm ready to go for the studio tomorrow morning when I get there. Catch up on some emails and other messages and whatever. Yep, 100%.
Well, I'm going to be in Japan having a great time.
Yeah, but you got to keep up with the thumbnails. I need some more. We need to finish because I need a thumbnail for an Oddcast segment.
Where,
ASAP.
buddy, where?
Come on, chop. Let's go.
All right.
Goodbye. Bye, everybody.